I'm playing Marvel Legends. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1. I'm a younger brother. Hello everyone, I'm XXX. If you are a brother, come and play our real legend. Equipment is all obtained by fighting, and the gold is recycled in seconds. Are you still playing fake legends? Come and see my real legend. I will give you a 200 yuan cash red envelope when you go online. Marfa, who deleted more than a dozen legend clients in succession, was staring blankly at the brainwashing advertisements that were constantly playing on the Samsung mobile phone. Many years have passed, and Marfa still remembers the experience of secretly going to the internet cafe to play legends without telling his parents when he was a child, and then being caught and beaten up. However, not long ago, Marfa's parents died in a car accident. Marfa, who could not accept the reality for a while, fell into decadence. So, that's right, Marfa quit his job and stayed at home all day playing the so-called real legend one by one. Marfa hoped that a pair of big hands would suddenly reach out from behind him and grab his ears tightly. Your uncle's legend of Mir, you're a liar, you're a liar. It's all a scam. Memories and feelings are ultimately no match for capital, and how can a highly commercialized game bring back memories? Of course, the most important thing is that there is no longer that pair of big hands that suddenly stretched out from behind. Bang! With the sound of a cell phone hitting the ground, a twisted space vortex directly swallowed Marfa's body. At the same time in Sokovia. Pietro, you bastard, did you get into a fight again? You should learn from your brother and stop causing trouble for me all day long. A high-pitched roar was heard again in a house in Sokovia. And all this was because at this time a ragged teenager, with a panda face, rushed into his house in a panic. Dad is right, you, as a brother, should learn from your younger brothers and sisters. The girl who was sitting in front of the TV and watching the black and white sitcom of the last century said. As soon as these words came out, they attracted a wave of eye rolls from the middle-aged man. In order to feed these three children, Django Maximov was worried to death, especially the birth of the third son, which made this originally not wealthy family even worse. For this reason, Django had to sell the original house and move into the small and narrow old house now. Fortunately, 9 years ago, a missile fell on Maximov's previous house, and it is said that the family who bought his house died because of it. Django and his wife also attributed this luck to their youngest son and regarded him as a lucky star. As the saying goes, there is no harm without comparison. Compared with his well-behaved and sensible younger brother, his son named Pietro Maximov is indeed a bit worse. The house fell into silence for a long time, and only the voice of the black and white sitcom seemed to be making the final insistence. Squeak. The door of the house was opened again, and a woman with champagne-colored hair and mature and intellectual beauty walked in. Dear, call the three children. We are going out for dinner today. The woman felt a depressing atmosphere in the room just after she finished speaking. Natalia, look at you. You have spoiled the children. Pietro is always fighting and causing trouble. Wanda. At this point, the man could not help but glance at the girl sitting in front of the TV, and then shook his head helplessly. Okay, at least our Marfa is very sensible, right? Natalia walked to the desk and rubbed the head of the boy who was reading affectionately, her eyes full of happiness and pride. At this time, the pupils of the boy named Marfa Maximov suddenly shrank, and his whole body fell to the ground. Marfa. Marfa. After an unknown amount of time, the echoing call in his ear woke the boy from his coma. What am I? The boy slowly opened his eyes still scattered. The next moment, countless information rushed into the boy's mind frantically. I traveled through time? And became the younger brother of Wanda Maximov and Pietro Maximov? When Marfa sorted out the memories in his mind, a drop of cold sweat instantly dripped from his forehead. Damn it. This is Marvel Sokovia. In other words, if he doesn't do something, in a few years, this city will rise to 90,000 miles in the battle between Ultron and the Avengers, and stand shoulder to shoulder with the sun. Dad. Mom. Marfa is awake. With a loud shout, two figures rushed into the small room, which was not too big. Seeing the worried look on their faces, Marfa's heart couldn't help but ache. Marfa, how do you feel? Natalia touched Marfa's forehead with one hand and asked worriedly. Ling. The intrusion of special energy is detected, and the system activates the self-protection mechanism. A mechanical electronic sound rang in his ears. System? After confirming that he was not hallucinating, Marfa's hanging heart was immediately put down. Fortunately, since there is a golden finger, then at least the chance of survival in this Marvel universe can be said to have increased a lot. Temporarily putting aside the idea of wanting to explore the system, Marfa was instantly possessed by the spirit of drama. I'm sorry to make everyone worried. I think it may be because of studying too hard before. As the only child in the Maximov family who is slightly gifted in learning, the previous owner of this body has always been particularly sensible. For this reason, whether it is Django, Natalia, or Wanda, they all praise Marfa. The only one who complained about this was Pietro, just because his parents always compared him with his younger brother, but never really took it to heart. Even when Marfa got into trouble at school, Pietro would turn into a brother-protecting demon and bully the weak for him. After all, the title of Fighting King is not given for nothing. Actually, kid, you don't have to be so tired. In fact, your father and I have already discussed it. We will move to New York soon. There are world-class educational resources there, where you can give full play to your talents. And your father and I will also have better jobs. Natalia looked at Django beside her, and the latter nodded slightly to confirm what Natalia said. Moving? That's great. At this moment, Marfa's heart was simply blossoming with joy. After all, as long as she left Sokovia, she could escape the fate of her family's crematorium. But this happiness only lasted for less than a second, and Marfa fell into despair. What a sin. It's good to leave Sokovia, a place of right and wrong, but the problem is that New York is not a fuel-saving lamp. My dear mother, aren't you making a fuss? What do you mean by going to New York? Do you want to arm wrestle with Hulk? Or do you want to compete with Loki for Tsundeer? Just out of the tiger's mouth and into the wolf's den. This matter. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully deflecting the MCU plot. 180 minutes of game time will be awarded. Please keep up the good work, host. Chapter 2. Still a fake legend? Finally, after a lot of deception, he barely managed to get his parents and Wanda's siblings away. Marfa ignored the bonus game time that the system had just prompted, and couldn't wait to check the so-called system. After a simple toss, Marfa quickly understood the operation of the system. If someone was present at this time, he could tell from his trembling lips that Marfa was excited at the moment. His consciousness sank into his mind, and the first thing he saw was an ancient stone slab engraved with the traditional Chinese character dragon. As a legendary fan, Marfa was very familiar with this. Isn't this the desktop icon of Legend of Mir 2? Focusing his attention on the stone slab, Marfa's sea of consciousness soon fell into darkness. Then Marfa felt that the environment around him began to distort, and in the blink of an eye he came to a stone house. Glancing around, he saw that on the walls everywhere, on the stone slabs that were piled up, countless mysterious runes were faintly emitting a faint halo. In front of the stone house, the tops of 2 stone lampposts with runes carved on them were constantly flickering, making the heavy stone door in the middle look particularly mysterious. This is a 100% restoration. Looking at the extremely familiar scene in front of him, Marfa was a little excited for a while. Isn't this the opening animation of the game? Taking 3 steps at a time, Marfa put his hands on the stone door and pushed it forward. With the sound of the stone door rubbing against the stone door, the heavy and simple stone door was opened. What appeared in front of him was a dark and narrow passage, and on the stone wall on one side of the passage, there were 3 icons carved. The first one was a big sword, followed by a magic wand, and the last one was a bent stick. Obviously, this was to choose a profession. The 3 icons on the stone wall undoubtedly corresponded to the 3 legendary professions of warrior, samurai, mage, and Taoist priest. Without hesitation, Marfa directly pressed his hand on the icon representing the Taoist priest. The 3 professions in legend have their own characteristics. The warrior has high defense and high blood, and is a well-deserved MT. The wild collision, half-moon scimitar, and flaming swordsmanship are not inferior in group attack or single combat. In the later stage, if you add a paralysis ring and a European face, you can almost be said to be able to kill anyone you see in seconds, leaving no room for the opponent to fight back. The mage has the highest output among the 3 professions, with ice roar, lightning, hell lightning, and firewall. In terms of monster spawning, the mage is second, and no one dares to be first. The most critical thing is that auxiliary skills such as temptation light, instant movement, and magic shield can often work wonders. As for the Taoist priest chosen by Marfa, it is the most balanced profession among the three. In terms of monster spawning, the Taoist priest is naturally not as good as the mage, and in terms of PK, it has no advantage over the warrior. But when it comes to hunting treasures, the Taoist priest is the undisputed number one. After all, invisibility, poisoning, summoning abilities, healing, sacred armor, ghost shield, all of these have pushed the Taoist priest onto the path of the king of treasure hunting. Somehow, Marfa had a feeling that since the system allowed him to choose a game profession, it was very likely that this career choice would directly affect his future superpowers. And the Taoist priest who can be invisible, heal and summon is obviously easier to survive in a dangerous plane like Marvel. Sure enough, as Marfa guessed, these three icons are Marfa's career selection bar. The moment his hands touched the Taoist priest's icon, a stream of information instantly poured into Marfa's mind. Marfa subconsciously summoned his attribute panel. Character, Marfa. Occupation, Taoist. Level 1, Defense. 0-0, Magic Defense. 0-1, Attack. 0 and 1, Taoist Magic. 0-1, Physical Strength, HP. 17/17, Magic Points, MBL. 13/13, Skills, none. Wow. Looking at his attribute panel, Marfa was speechless. He was really a novice trumpet. Shouldn't he be given a novice gift package, a 999 knife? But on second thought, Marfa became even more excited. Isn't this the true legend he had been thinking about? He opened his storage package neatly. Sure enough, a candle, a piece of cloth, and a wooden sword were lying quietly in his backpack. Cloth, durability 5/5, defense 0-2, magic defense 0-1, required level 1, wooden sword, durability 4/4, attack 2-5, required level 1. Without hesitation, Marfa directly put the cloth on himself, and now he completely got rid of the dilemma of being naked. However, at this time, Marfa saw that there was an option that he had never seen before on his equipment panel. He subconsciously focused his attention on it. In an instant, the cloth on Marfa's body whoosh disappeared, and was replaced by the clothes he wore in reality. Moreover, the attributes brought by the cloth did not decrease because of the change of clothes. Is this a fashion system? Is the dress-up game okay? Damn it. This is still a fake legend. He secretly complained in his heart, but Marfa did not uninstall the game directly like before. After all, this thing seems to be impossible to uninstall. After playing the dress-up game for a while, Marfa soon felt bored and continued to move forward along the dark and narrow passage. Soon, an invisible air wall blocked Marfa's way forward. But on the air wall, the words 180 minutes were written. It was only then that Marfa realized that the system had previously prompted him to reward him with game time. So this is really a point card game. Because of his appearance, the Maximov family did not live in Sokovia as in the original plot, but decided to move to New York. This has changed the plot to a great extent. At least the Maximov family will not die under Nini's missiles, right? Will the original plot be deflected to get game time? What if he messes up the plot of the Marvel world? It's only 2008 now, and Iron Man has not yet been born in a real sense. With his foresight, Marfa feels that he can do something more or less. But then Marfa realized his mistake. You know, the MCU is different from other worlds. This world has various gods. Even if those are not considered, the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One alone will probably not allow him to mess around. So, do I still need to hide until I become strong enough? Now that the Maximov family has moved to New York, will they also receive the attention of the Ancient One? After thinking for a long time, Marfa still couldn't think of a way to have the best of both worlds. Since he couldn't figure it out, he just ignored it. There must be a way out when the car reaches the mountain, so he took it one step at a time. Without any further hesitation, Marfa dodged and rushed directly towards the air wall in front of him. The moment he entered, the air wall also started to count down. Chapter 3 Ebony Sword. Half an hour later. Hey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, digging meat is really hard, all the meat is dear, all quality 5. At the entrance of the border village in Biki province, a young man was waving his wooden sword and slaughtering the deer passing by him, and dug out all their meat without missing a single one. Damn it. I understand why the early stage of the fake legend can either soak or do tasks. Who can stand this endless killing of chickens and deer? How did I get through it back then? Why didn't I feel bored at all? While complaining wildly, Marfa didn't stop working at all. Marfa had tried it before, and he didn't feel pain when he was injured in this game. Marfa was still very relieved about this. Otherwise, the mage would be better, but how could you let the warrior survive? Secondly, this real legend was obviously a bit too much. Marfa still had some impression of the border village in his mind. It can be said to be a legendary novice village. It's a small place. If you play the game, you can go around the village in less than 2 minutes. However, the reality is that this is really a decent village. Although the layout of the NPC is not much different from that in the game, the size of the houses and the area of the village itself are all magnified countless times. This is a bit of a pitfall. Marfa ran for 5 minutes just to the entrance of the village. Isn't this a cheat? It's easy to deflect the plot of the MCU. The system is still messing with itself. It took half an hour to travel, and Marfa barely reached level 4. The experience required from level 4 to level 5 is 400 points, 5 points of experience for a chicken, and 15 points of experience for a deer. In other words, to reach level 5, Marfa still needs to kill dozens of small animals. Fortunately, looking at his full backpack of meat, Marfa felt comforted. Just looking at the somewhat horrible wooden sword in his hand, Marfa felt helpless. It seemed that it was time to go back to the village. The damn system was going to trick me into clicking cards again. Taking much heavier steps than when he came, Marfa quickly ran towards the border village. Wow. However, at this moment, an unpleasant cry that made people's hair stand on end suddenly rang out from the bushes not far away. What is this? Looking in the direction of the sound. Damn, it's a big treasure. What appeared in front of Marfa was a nail rake cat. I saw that on its half-human high chubby body, there was a cat head that was extremely incongruous, and the key was that it was holding a long nail rake in its hand. Originally, this appearance was just a little ugly, but the problem was that this cry. Anyway, it was uglier than the cry of the cat downstairs in Marfa's previous life. I have now reached level 4, so it shouldn't be difficult to kill a nail rake cat. I thought to myself. Nowadays, Marfa still dares not try death. After all, what if there is no resurrection in this game? Wouldn't he really die? It's not Marfa's fault. For this kind of uncertainty and inability to try, Marfa still has some awe. After all, life is only once. Well, as a traverser, Marfa has 2 times, damn sanksing. Looking at his panel attributes, since he was upgraded to level 4, Marfa has a maximum of 27 blood points. He lost some in the battle with Gigi Lulu just now, and now there are 22 points left. To be on the safe side, Marfa sat down and rested for a while. Maybe it was due to psychological effects, or because he played too many other online games. Marfa always felt that the blood recovery speed was faster when sitting than when standing. Soon, the blood was full. Fight. With a burst of shouting, Marfa swung the broken wooden sword and chopped at the nail rake cat. Seeing this, the cat with spikes was not to be outdone. It swung the spikes in its hand and aimed at Marfa's head and hit it hard. It didn't hurt to be hit by the spikes, but Marfa felt a trance in his mind and almost stumbled to the ground. At this moment, a bright red word -3 floated over his head. Oh my god, why is this happening? Is there still a thing called stiffness in Legend? He searched his memory carefully and it seemed that there really was. It seemed that when the monster was hit by the mage's lightning spell, it would be stiff for a moment. There were 24 points of blood left, and the cat with spikes had 36 points of blood. If he hit it once, the cat with spikes would lose 6 points. Marfa used elementary school math to calculate in 1 second that he needed to hit the opponent 5 times to kill him, while the opponent needed to hit him 8 times. His attack speed was faster than the cat with spikes. What's more, when he was born, he had a small dose of golden wound medicine hanging on his belt. This wave is stable. With this in mind, Marfa immediately stretched out his evil hands towards the rake cat again. 6 minus 5. 3. 6 minus 6. 3. Very good, it's just a kitten. What's there to be afraid of? I'll finish you off in the end. Thinking this way in his mind, what happened next made Marfa dumbfounded. Snap! With a slight sound, the novice wooden sword broke, and Marfa's hand smashed on the rake cat. 1. Oops, The opponent still has 5 points of health, but he has no weapon. Thinking it was not good, Marfa regretted it very much. He should have gone to the weapon shop to repair the wooden sword first. 5 points of health, 1 point at a time. He had to hit 5 times, and he had 18 points left. The opponent hit him 6 times, and his attack speed was fast. Elementary school mathematics came online again. After confirming that he was not in danger, Marfa simply raised his fist and hit the Ray Cat. After all, this is a fake legend of real people fighting, not a real legend. If you hit, you hit. If you miss, you miss. There is no such thing as physical evasion. Soon, the Ray Cat was knocked to the ground by Marfa's casserole-like fist, bleeding from all 7 orifices. Experience value plus 18. Looking at the number popping up on the system panel, Marfa was quite satisfied. This was almost as many as 4 chickens, although it was a bit dangerous. But immediately, Marfa's eyes fell on a hilt under the Ray Cat. He looked at the hilt of the wooden sword that he had just broken. Fuck, it's sold. He kicked the body of the Ray Cat away, and saw a dark wooden sword suddenly appeared in front of Marfa. Ebony sword, durability. 7/7, attack. 6/6, accuracy, +1, required level. 1. Oh, Cat, Uncle blamed you wrongly. It seems that you broke Uncle's wooden sword to give Uncle a better one. Looking at the corpse of the nail Ray Cat that was kicked aside by him, staring at him with blood in his eyes, Marfa suddenly felt a little guilty. Just touching the ebony sword that felt as warm as jade and faintly flashed with cold light on the sword, Marfa threw the guilt just now to the sky at a height of 10,000 meters in just a moment. Fragrant. On the way back to the city, although he occasionally encountered a few scarecrows and chickens and deer, it was not a big problem. Under the sharp edge of the ebony sword, they all turned into Marfa's experience points. Unfortunately, Marfa's backpack was full at this time. He had no choice but to compare the quality of the newly dug chicken and venison with the inventory in his backpack, and threw those of poor quality directly to the ground. The 5-minute journey was not too long, but now game point cards are hard to come by, and Marfa is naturally very angry. Fortunately, after returning to the border village, Marfa also had a good harvest. Chicken 17, average price 500 gold coins each. Venison 22, average price 1,000 gold coins each. Leaving a group of chickens and venison, Marfa planned to do a small experiment, and then sold 16 pieces of chicken and 21 pieces of venison, a total of 29,000 gold coins, plus the gold coins dropped by scarecrows along the way. Marfa went from being penniless to a well-off with more than 30,000 gold coins. Chapter 4, Captain America is a unit of measurement. 180 minutes of game time passed quickly as Marfa happily slaughtered chickens and deer. Character, Marfa. Occupation, Taoist. Level 6, Defense. 0-2, Magic Defense. 0 and 3, Attack. 6-10, Taoist Magic. 0 and 1, Physical Value, Blood. 35/35, Magic Value, Blue. 23/23, Skills, None. Equipment, Ebony Sword, Cloth, Candle, Iron Bracelet 2, Bronze Ring 2, Gold Necklace. Iron Bracelet, Durability. 4/4, Accuracy, +1, required level 3. Bronze Ring, Durability. 5/5, Attack. 0-1, required level 3. Gold Necklace, Durability. 8/8, Agility, +1, Attack. 0-1, required level 2. Don't ask where the Iron Bracelet, Bronze Ring, and Gold Necklace came from. The answer is that I sold 3 bunches of meat and made a lot of money. Taoist priests are different from mages. Before learning the skill Soul Fire Talisman at level 18, their main means of attack is still melee combat with monsters. Therefore, in order to improve the efficiency of upgrading, Marfa has no intention of saving. Therefore, as long as the store sells the equipment and he can wear it, Marfa has a set of them. Fortunately, the novice equipment is very cheap, which is not a big deal for a meat tycoon. Ding, the host's game time has run out, and the game will be automatically transferred out in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. With a flash of white light, Marfa only felt his eyes go black, and the whole person came to the previous dark tunnel again. The only difference is that the air wall that had the words 180 minutes written on it before is now frozen by ice and can no longer be entered, and the words on the air wall have also changed from 180 minutes to 0 minutes. Good guy, it is indeed a point card game. My youth is back. Helplessly, Marfa could only walk out along the passage and return to the original stone chamber. The heavy stone door behind him closed again. The flames on the lampposts on both sides of the stone gate gradually became smaller, and finally with the flames extinguished, Marfa only felt dizzy, and when he came to his senses, he was already on his bed. Sokovia time, 7:38 p.m. Looking at the wall clock hanging not far away, Marfa's eyes suddenly widened. The time when he entered the game before was also 7:38 p.m. Could it be? As if he thought of something, Marfa turned over and quickly jumped off the bed. Snap! With a sound of wood breaking, the wooden bed that Marfa had slept on for more than 10 years was broken by his foot. And his legs also directly penetrated the wooden bed and fell heavily on the floor. How could this happen? Marfa was completely shocked. How could he, a nerd, break the wooden bed with one foot? Unless, as if he thought of something, in order to confirm his guess, Marfa walked lightly to the place where he usually put the dumbbells 30 kilograms. In the memory that Marfa inherited, it was quite strenuous to lift this before. With an extremely nervous mood, Marfa slowly put his hand on the dumbbell. This is too light. If Marfa wanted to lift the dumbbell in his hand with one hand before, it would be a very strenuous thing. But now the dumbbell in Marfa's hand is as easy and comfortable as holding a water cup before. Sure enough, as early as when he entered the game and chose his profession, Marfa had guessed that since it was a golden finger, it didn't make sense to just entertain himself. What's more, it is very difficult to get game time. When he just entered the game, Marfa's attack power limit was only 1 point, and when he exited the game, the attack power limit was a full 10 points. Just looking at it literally, it has increased to 10 times the previous one. What's more, the improvement of strength is not just as simple as literally adding numbers. Taking the Olympic snatch weight as the standard, those who can snatch more than twice their own are already excellent athletes. In the past, Marfa was just a student weighing about 65 kilograms, and being able to snatch 100 kilograms was already quite remarkable. But now, Marfa has a feeling that he can easily lift even an ordinary 5-seater car. According to Captain America's strength of about 5 tons, Marfa is now almost catching up with half of Captain America. 3 hours of games make half of Captain America. Hiss. Thinking of this, Marfa couldn't help but take a breath. You know, you are only level 6 now. If you reach level 40 or 50 in the future, wouldn't it be possible to arm wrestle with Hulk? Just when Marfa was stunned, the door of the house was pushed open again. Natalia, who broke in, looked worried. What's wrong? Marfa. What just happened? Before she finished speaking, Natalia opened her mouth in shock. What caught her eyes was that Marfa was playing with a 30-kilogram dumbbell in his hand like a 2.5-year trainee. Subconsciously, Natalia took 2 steps back. It seemed that she had difficulty accepting what she had seen and heard. Mom. Seeing Natalia's reaction, Marfa also realized that the situation was not good. He accidentally missed the dumbbell that fell from the air and was about to hit the back of his foot. At the critical moment, a red stream of light passed by. However, the dumbbell seemed to be pulled by an invisible force and had no intention of continuing to fall. Looking at Natalia at the door at this time, she only saw her left hand pressing her right forearm, and her right hand was facing up, with a bright red light, as if controlling something. This time it was Marfa's turn to be shocked. What a joke. Isn't this the chaos magic of Scarlet Witch Wanda Maximoff? How could it appear on Natalia? According to the plot of the MCU, Wanda's ability seems to have been activated by the power of the Mind Stone after she was captured by Baron Strucker and taken to the Hydra laboratory. Unless, Marfa couldn't help but have a bold idea in mind. It is obviously impossible for Baron Strucker of Hydra to use only Wanda and her siblings for human experiments on the Mind Gem. But why can only this pair of siblings succeed in the experiment and gain superpowers, but no other subjects have ever been seen who have succeeded in the experiment? This is very intriguing. The only explanation is that Wanda and her siblings already have extremely special physiques, and the Mind Gem only acts as a catalyst, allowing the two people's abilities to be successfully awakened. It is not the infusion from scratch that Marfa understood before. Both children have special physiques, so the possibility of this being hereditary cannot be ruled out. In this way, it is understandable that Natalia Maximoff, the mother of Wanda and Pietro, has the same ability as Wanda. But in this case, in the original plot, how could Natalia, who has such power, Be easily killed by a missile? With a puzzled analysis in my heart, new questions arise. Why in the original plot, the missile storm in 1999 directly took away the lives of Natalia and Django? Is it because of the temporary loss of magic? Or is there another reason? P.S. This paragraph about Wanda's mother is original by the author. If it conflicts with the subsequent plot of MCU, I hope readers will understand. Chapter 5 Agatha Strike. Before Marfa could ask the question in her mind, Natalia spoke first, as if she had accepted this seemingly incredible reality. Marfa, you have to know that people are always afraid and repulsive to the unknown. There is a saying in China that birds of a feather flock together. Once you behave differently from the public, no matter whether you have good intentions towards them or not, they will unconsciously reject you. Do you understand? No matter what ability you have now, Mom hopes that you will not use it, and it is best to forget it completely. As she said this, Natalia sighed for a long time, as if she recalled some sad past. Marfa could naturally understand Natalia's words. After all, in the neighboring world of X-Men, mutants are so unwelcome, and almost everyone in the world has strong hostility towards them. There are countless children who have been abandoned because their mutant identities were exposed. Don't you see, Lao Wan originally planned to retire, but just because he used his ability to save a colleague in the factory, he suffered the fate of being separated from his wife and children, and his family was broken up. Marfa can even think of what her adopted mother had experienced when she was young. Perhaps, this is the reason why Natalia never used her ability even at the moment of life and death in the original plot. However, this is the MCU after all, not the world of X-Men, and most people are still relatively friendly to those with superpowers. Although Marfa can understand Natalia's retreat, she does not agree with it. Her family will move to New York in the near future. If she does not have some strength or power, who will save her when Loki calls? Captain America? Or Iron Man? It is better to rely on yourself than to ask others for help. Marfa, who lost her parents in the previous life, has a very strong obsession with the word relatives, so she will never hand over the lives of her family to other people, even if these relatives are inherited. I understand, Mom. But do we have to move to New York? In fact, compared to New York, I would rather go to China. The Olympics just ended not long ago, and the whole world has seen China's progress. It's very safe there, and there is no racial and religious discrimination. As a Chinese in the previous life, Marfa knew China very well. Although it was still somewhat inferior to some developed countries in terms of economy, when it came to safety, China was definitely at the forefront of the world. There was no reason to leave such a good place and go to New York, right? But for Marfa's words, Natalia frowned slightly, with a worried look on her face, as if she was afraid of something. But Natalia didn't mean to explain to Marfa. China is too complicated, and as an old witch, Natalia knew it very well. If your family really moved there, the supernatural forces there might not necessarily acquiesce to the existence of her family. In contrast, New York at least has the New York Temple. Natalia had already made up her mind. As soon as her family arrived in New York, she would visit the temple in person. She thought that if she could get the protection of that person, she would be able to save a lot of trouble. Even if that person didn't want to protect her, she could still go to the SWORD. After all, its founder, Maria Rambeau, is very friendly to people with superpowers. Note, at this point in time, the Avengers plan has not been put on the agenda. On one hand, there is a strong sense of national security and strict control over foreign superpowers. P.S. I want to say the SWORD. I'm afraid that the stall is too big to be controlled, and on the other hand, there is the SWORD, which is eager for superpowers. Natalia naturally knows what to choose. Out of protection for Marfa, her most beloved youngest son, Natalia did not tell Marfa about this. She just walked forward a few steps and gently stroked Marfa's head, then nodded slightly, indicating that she would consider it. After all, Marfa has lived 2 lives, so how could he not understand that his proposal was rejected by Natalia? Although Marfa did not know about the situation of China in this world from the Marvel movies he had watched in his previous life, since Natalia had her own ideas, Marfa chose to remain silent. At the same time, in a luxury hotel in Sokovia, a plump woman was sitting on the bed with her eyes closed and concentrating, and the crystal ball in her hand was constantly flashing a seductive purple light. Oh, he. She suddenly opened her eyes and a piercing laugh came out of her mouth, scaring the black cat lying on the sofa not far away. Ebony, my little baby, We have been looking for so long and finally found it." After saying that, the woman's body slowly floated up from the bed, and just floated in the air in such a strange way. The black cat on the sofa also raised the corner of its mouth slightly at the first time, and climbed onto the woman's shoulder in a few jumps. Pop! A purple-black light flashed, and the floor-to-ceiling window of the suite was shattered into powder. Following the guidance of the crystal ball, the woman flew quickly towards the location of the Maximoff family. Looking at her trembling hands, it seemed that she could not hide her excitement. For hundreds of years, Agatha Harkness has spent hundreds of years to find the legendary Scarlet Witch. In these hundreds of years, Agatha has almost traveled to every corner of the world. God will not let down those who work hard, and this day has finally come. Agatha Harkness was originally just an extremely ordinary witch, and it can even be said that her talent is not very good. But because of her curiosity, she practiced black magic, thus violating the regulations of the witch gathering. On the day of the execution, Agatha successfully counterattacked and plundered the magic energy of all the witches present with black magic, which made her strength have a qualitative leap. How could Agatha be satisfied with using this spell similar to the Northern Divine Art only once? During these hundreds of years, Agatha almost bloodbathed the entire magic world on Earth, and even the white magic of Camartage had been targeted by Agatha. If it weren't for the final move of the Ancient One, who easily crushed it, even a big force like Camartage would have suffered a heavy blow. During the next hundreds of years of travel, Agatha accidentally obtained the Dark Book of Guts, an ancient magic book that is in no way inferior to the Book of Vishanti of Camartage. In the Dark Book of Guts, Agatha saw her hope of going further, that is, the Scarlet Witch who inherited the legendary chaos magic. Thinking that as long as she could plunder the chaos magic energy of the contemporary Scarlet Witch, Agatha would have the confidence to compete with the Ancient One again. During a brief thought, Agatha's figure had already arrived above the Maximoff family. "Oh, Ebony, my little darling. It's up to you now." After that, Agatha put away the crystal ball, pulled the black cat off her back, and threw it directly towards the roof of the Maximoff family. Meow. Roar. The black cat in the air was not frightened by Agatha's actions at all. With a cat cry that resounded through the night sky, the black cat's body quickly grew larger, and in a moment it turned into a black panther as big as a lion. Chapter 6 Mom Goes Mad. The roar of the Black Panther shook the whole house. The neighbors opened their windows one after another, wanting to give the noisemaker some love education. But Gudong. Looking at the husky standing proudly on the roof of the Maximoff family like a lion, destroying the house with his bare hands, no, it was a Black Panther. Everyone couldn't help but step back slightly, swallowed deeply, and then seemed to think of something, and immediately closed the window and pulled the safety. After all, in human cognition, Black Panthers can climb trees. Who knows if it will climb into their own house along the wall? Of course, the most important thing is that this Black Panther is not as docile and lovely as the one in the zoo. Just from the sharp claws that reflect the moonlight and emit a faint cold light, it can be seen that this is a master who can't be provoked. Inside the house, the moment Ebony's huge body fell on the roof, Natalia and Marfa suddenly changed color. The former felt the abnormal fluctuation of magic power, while the latter was shocked by the invisible aura of Ebony. Bang! With a loud noise, the entire roof of Marfa's room collapsed. Then a huge black shadow rushed towards him. Marfa, who reacted in time, immediately picked up the dumbbell that Natalia had just placed slowly in front of him, and threw it towards the location of the black shadow without saying a word. Under Marfa's several tons of force, the 30-kilogram dumbbell was like a cannonball, whizzing past Natalia's side with bursts of air-breaking sounds. Boom! The house trembled, and the wall, which was already a little old, could not withstand Marfa's tossing. Without any surprise, a large piece collapsed, raising a cloud of dust. When the dust dissipated, a large hole as high as a person was seen on the wall. Gusts of cold wind blew through the hole on Marfa's face, causing Marfa's silver hair to flutter. Obviously, the dumbbells did not hit Ebony, who had transformed into a Black Panther. After all, this creature is a cat, and cats are always known for their agility. Moreover, this is the favorite pet of Agatha, the Witch of Black Magic, so how could it be an ordinary person? Marfa frowned slightly, and was also confused by this sudden enemy. Why didn't he come earlier or later, but just when he and Natalia were talking about superpowers? Was it such a coincidence? At this moment, Marfa suddenly felt a chill coming from behind him, and the murderous intent that penetrated his bones seemed to condense into substance and attacked his back. although Marfa had just fought a lot of monsters in the legendary game not long ago. But Marfa subconsciously regarded it as a game NPC, and did not have the feeling of going to the battlefield with real swords and guns like now. Such a sudden murderous intent really scared Marfa. Subconsciously, he wanted to dodge the attack from behind, but it was too late. Ebony's claws were less than 3 centimeters away from Marfa's back, and Marfa could even feel a slight tingling sensation on her skin. At the critical moment, Natalia moved. Her hands danced awkwardly in front of her body, and the scarlet energy that seemed to be real immediately turned into a magic ball the size of a basketball and shot towards Ebony behind Marfa. The speed was so fast that even Marfa could not react in time. Bang! Another loud noise sounded, and this time it obviously hit Ebony successfully. The dark figure turned into a residual image under the attack of the scarlet chaos magic, and crashed directly into the wall beside it. But how could the wall of this small broken house withstand such a huge force? A huge hole appeared in the wall again. And Ebony's body was also knocked out of the house. For a moment, the whole house seemed to be on the verge of collapse because of the 3 big holes. Marfa, hurry up, take Django, Wanda and Pietro away from here. Natalia's tone was cold and full of unquestionable feeling at this moment. This was something that Marfa had never seen before. Obviously, Natalia was really angry this time. Someone dared to hurt her son in front of her. As a mother, Natalia would never allow it. As soon as the voice fell, without waiting for Marfa to answer, Natalia's body was enveloped by a scarlet chaotic energy. The violent energy almost distorted the surrounding space. Then, under the support of the scarlet energy, Natalia's whole body slowly floated up, and her eyes were like blood, emitting a strange red light. No matter who you are, die for me. The words were full of domineering, fully showing the nature of female creatures to protect their calves. Women are weak by nature, but they are strong as mothers. After all, this time is different from the original plot. Natalia, who witnessed her son being attacked, has no time to hide her ability. Marfa, who was standing by, saw that her mother had already flown out of the big hole in the house, and the house was about to collapse. Marfa would not hesitate and immediately turned around and ran towards the door. In order to save time, Marfa was even too lazy to open the door. He went up and kicked the door of his house. At this time, it doesn't matter whether the posture is handsome or not. The key is to move quickly. Until this moment, Marfa just woke up and realized that he had indeed gained powerful power from the legendary game, but power is only power after all, not combat power. Especially at present, his game level is too low, he has not learned any skills at all, and he has no formed combat style and output cycle. It's like giving a 4-year-old child a big kitchen knife. How much combat power can he have? Let alone adults, any teenager can easily take it down. Before the 18th level, the Taoist priests had no means of long-range attack except for poisoning. In other words, he still had a long way to go in melee combat. If he didn't have the external spider sense cheat like Spider-Man, learning fighting skills would be his best way out. After all, enemies in the real world would not fight with you for blood bottles like in the game. Thinking of this, Marfa began to quickly search for melee masters in the MCU in his mind. First of all, the strongest melee fighter Hulk was excluded. He did not have a tank-like body like Hulk. Even in the later stage, his attributes were improved and he could compete with Hulk in strength, but his defense ability might not be as strong as Hulk. In the final analysis, he was still a Taoist priest, not a warrior. Secondly, Spider-Man was excluded. Not to mention that the Dutch brother version of Spider-Man in the MCU world was about the same size as him at this time, and it was still unclear whether he had acquired the ability. Moreover, Spider-Man's melee combat relied more on the early warning of Spider Sense and the auxiliary mobility provided by Spider Silk. If these were excluded, Spider-Man had nothing but greater strength and agility. Captain America, Steve Rogers, this is also ruled out. As a superhero with the highest melee combat ability in the MCU, Captain America's fighting level is naturally unquestionable. The problem is that it is only 2008 now, and he should still be frozen. Daredevil? No, the blind man's fighting style is not suitable for me. Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff? This is possible. After all, if the strength is not considered, Black Widow's melee combat skills are not much inferior to Captain America. The two of them even became the fighting coaches of the Avengers. But the problem is that on the one hand, Black Widow is too focused on skills because of her lack of strength, and her moves are more feminine. and it seems that it is not easy for me to climb up to Black Widow's thigh. Unless I go to Snake Shield? Thinking of the shield that has been infiltrated by Hydra inside and out, Marfa couldn't help but feel a headache. While thinking about a way to study, Marfa knocked out Wanda, Django and Quicksilver without saying anything, wrapped them up with a blanket, and ran towards the basement with them. The situation was critical, so Marfa could not explain slowly. Anyway, he put the 3 people in the relatively safe basement first. Chapter 7 Natalia. On the other side, Natalia had just flown out of the house when a purple-black magic torrent hit her head on. Caught off guard, Natalia felt as if her chest had been hit by a 1,000-pound hammer, and her whole body was directly knocked back more than 10 meters, until it hit a metal billboard, and then stopped its retreat. Ahem. She coughed lightly, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Natalia's mouth. It was obvious that the sudden attack just now caused her a lot of damage. Asshole, who are you? Why are you attacking us? Natalia's eyes were bloodshot, and her cold eyes stared at Agatha, who was floating in the air not far away, like a ferocious beast that could go berserk and kill people at any time. Oh. Hee. Agatha's standard witch-like laughter sounded, and she smiled, as if she had seen an old friend she hadn't seen for many years, which made people a little unpredictable. It doesn't matter if you don't know me, but I know you. The Scarlet Witch who inherited great power in the legend. You know, it took me hundreds of years to find you. Alice. I am a woman, and a woman's youth is so precious. At this time, Agatha was like a drama spirit, stroking her cheek with her hand, and showing a face full of resentment, just like a wronged young wife. Of course, Natalia didn't care about Agatha's affectation at all. Now her mind was full of the fact that this person in front of her almost hurt her baby son. Daddy can tolerate it, but Mommy can't. Anyone who tries to hurt Natalia's beloved will never be easily let go. Tell me, why are you looking for me? If you can't give me a good reason, I have to teach you why my magic is so popular. Before Natalia finished speaking, Agatha immediately showed a look of joy. Ah, look at you, you're so angry, your eyes are red, oh, haha. After saying that, Agatha raised her right hand in front of her, and fiddled with her fingers, as if she was carving something, and she was whispering rhythmically as her fingers moved. In an instant, a purple-black halo behind Natalia's head instantly enveloped her entire head. And Natalia's eyes were dull at this moment, and she fell into a sluggish state. Tell me, how did you get your chaos magic? Tell me. Agatha's voice kept echoing in Natalia's ears. Obviously, this was a spell similar to hypnosis. No. I don't know. I don't know what chaos magic is, but I was born with this power. Although Natalia is the Scarlet Witch who masters chaos magic, she has not undergone systematic learning. Up to now, all the ways and techniques of using the power of chaos are all figured out by Natalia herself. This was fully demonstrated by the magic attack on Ebony. If Agatha was a student with average talent but under the guidance of a famous teacher, then Natalia was a genius who was born with knowledge but suffered from the lack of guidance. A wild person is a wild person after all. When facing ordinary enemies, Natalia can fight 100 with 1, but when facing a regular army like Agatha with a strong foundation, it is like meeting a nemesis, and she is somewhat unable to exert her strength. I don't know. Agatha frowned. Obviously, Natalia's answer did not satisfy her. In this case, let me see for myself. Agatha immediately recited the spell again, and saw her hands suddenly pushed forward, and immediately established a spiritual connection with Natalia. Hello, my name is Justin. Can I go to the movies with you? Compared with Wanda in the future, Natalia's appearance as a girl is no worse than that of Wanda in the future. This is why there were countless teenagers pursuing Natalia in school. No, you are a demon, don't come near me. The scene changed and came to the scene where Natalia's chaos magic was first awakened. Not far away, the boy named Justin collapsed on the ground with fear on his face. Dad, don't you want Natalia anymore? The next scene is the scene where Natalia's father abandoned Natalia and her mother with fear on his face after learning that she was not a normal person. No, don't hurt my child. The next scene is a scene where Natalia and her mother were in tattered clothes and surrounded by a group of people holding various weapons. In order to protect Natalia, Natalia's mother was beaten to death by the villagers, and Natalia almost stepped into the gates of hell in that incident. The root of everything, all the misfortunes, are all because of this damned chaos magic. For this reason, Natalia has an instinctive disgust and hatred for this majestic power in her body. The last scene is that Natalia met Django Maximoff by chance, and soon the two fell in love and gave birth to twins. 2 years later, they gave birth to a son, and their lives were considered happy. But Natalia still lives in worry all day long, fearing that one day her secret will be exposed, and Django, Wanda, Pietro and Marfa will leave her like her father abandoned her. No. 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 A series of memories obviously pushed Natalia to despair. She almost collapsed mentally and shouted in pain. The voice was full of sorrow and sadness, which could be said to be sad and tearful. But Agatha, who witnessed Natalia's life, was not moved at all. Speaking of painful experiences, Agatha did not think that she was much less than Natalia. God knows how desperate Agatha was when her mother personally pushed her to the execution platform. It is for this reason that Agatha knows that only the ultimate power can protect herself. As long as she stands at the top of the world, no one in the world can bully her. Those stupid people are only worthy of being her slaves, instead of standing high above the moral high ground and pushing a person like her into hell. What a pitiful person. Agatha said indifferently, but she slowly floated in front of Natalia. She slowly placed her palm on Natalia's D, her eyes full of fierceness. In this case, that's the only way. Don't worry, I will let your family go after I drain your chaos magic energy. It's a reward for your contribution. Although Natalia's face was still full of pain and her eyes were dull, when she heard Agatha say to let her family go, Natalia's body still trembled obviously. Immediately, as if she had let go of a huge rock in her heart, she tilted her head back, relaxed her clenched hands, and let Agatha use them as a power bank to absorb energy. For a moment, the night sky of Sokovia was shrouded in scarlet, and the incomparably vast chaotic energy rushed towards Agatha like 100 rivers flowing into the sea. At the same time, Natalia was aging rapidly. Obviously, this was the sequelae left in her body after the original power was taken away. Asshole. Let go of my mom. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 First Kill. Marfa, who came out of the shabby house at this time, was also a little confused. What's going on? What about the no matter who you are, come and die? What about the mother who said that she would take on 2 people? It was just a short time to send Wanda and others to the basement. How could Natalia be beaten? No. Fake. Unbelievable. You know, in the plot of Avengers 4, Wanda compressed Thanos to the ground. Who is Thanos? A member of the Eternal Clan. Apart from those so-called gods, I am afraid that he is a big boss who can rank at the forefront even in the entire universe. As a Scarlet Witch, how can her mother be so bad? Of course, complaining is complaining, and tiredness is tiredness. Marfa, who has a special obsession with family affection, naturally will not allow anyone to bully his mother. In the previous life, he had enough of the pain of his son wanting to support his parents but not waiting. In this life, even if he gave everything, Marfa would never allow anyone to touch his relatives. However, Agatha showed a disdainful look to Marfa, who was standing on the ground and shouting. She glanced at Marfa with great contempt, as if to say, if you have the ability, fly up. Previously, through the spiritual connection with Natalia, Agatha already knew that the boy in front of her was not ordinary, and seemed to have great strength. But what could she do? At this time, she was dozens of meters high in the air. Agatha didn't think that Marfa could jump in front of her and punch her. Ebony. My little cutie, get up quickly and kill this little bastard. Obviously, Agatha didn't think Marfa was worth her effort. Compared with Marfa, she was obviously more interested in the feast called Chaos Power in front of her. But it would have been better if she didn't say this. As soon as the voice came out, Agatha felt that she was not as smooth and silky as before when she extracted Natalia's chaos magic. Obviously, although Natalia was still confused at this time, out of maternal instinct, she subconsciously began to resist Agatha's energy extraction. Roar. As if responding to Agatha, under the metal billboard not far away, the Black Panther Ebony, who was previously hit by Natalia's magic energy ball, twisted her body a few times and climbed up from the ground shakily. Waste. Agatha was obviously very dissatisfied with Ebony being hit by Natalia and lying for so long. In order to train this black cat who can transform into magic, Agatha has spent a lot of effort. Harry Ball Higher Yam. Chanting the spell, Agatha barely separated a part of her mind and cast a black magic on Ebony. I saw circles of black and purple energy ripples under Agatha's control, and they were stirred up in an instant. Marfa, who was standing on the ground, felt that the situation was not good, and subconsciously looked in the direction of Agatha's finger. Roar. There was another earth-shaking roar, the sound waves spread out in circles, and the surrounding green plants rustled in the roar of Ebony. Looking at Ebony again, I saw that her body was slightly smaller than before, but her hair was standing up all over her body. The krypton gold cat eyes that originally looked particularly bright in the dark night now exuded waves of fascinating and strange light. Obviously, Agatha used some secret method to forcibly suppress Ebony's injuries and add a violent buff to it. Tisk, that's it. Marfa naturally looked down on Agatha's beast control methods. When it comes to beast control, who can compare with the Taoist priest? Summon skeletons, summon divine beasts, summon moon spirits, and even summon white tigers, and then ghost shields, sacred armor, healing spells. Increase defense, increase blood, and can summon infinitely. Of course, even if you look down on it, at least these are still out of reach for Marfa at the moment. While Marfa was thinking, Ebony had already come close to Marfa. The sharp claws were raised high, aimed at Marfa's throat and cut it, and the movements were smooth and flowing, as if they had practiced countless times. This time, Marfa did not let Ebony succeed so easily. Poisoning. Well, actually, when Marfa sent Django and others to the basement just now, he suddenly had an idea to grab a handful of lime powder used for moisture prevention. Marfa, who had read many martial arts novels in his previous life, had always been very curious about this thing, whether it was as magical as the legend said. At the critical moment, Marfa raised the lime powder in his hand to his position, then closed his eyes, held his breath, ducked his head and dodged, barely avoiding Ebony's attack by a millimeter. Ebony never thought that the boy in front of him was actually an old shaman, and actually used such a despicable method in a fair contest. In an instant, the eyes that were wide open were filled with a layer of lime powder, and a burning pain went straight into Ebony's brain nerves. Before she could react from the pain in her eyes, she felt a sharp pain in her heart, and then a feeling of weakness spread throughout her body. Bang! With the sound of falling to the ground, Ebony's huge body was lying straight on the ground. At this time, Marfa was holding a shiny black wooden sword in both hands, horizontally in front of her. Drops of blood dripped down the tip of the wooden sword. Under the moonlight, Marfa was like a swordsman standing on the top, decisive, ruthless, sharp and heroic. Of course, the premise is to automatically ignore the white powder that covered the ground behind him. Ebony's strength is beyond doubt, otherwise he would not have been with Agatha for so long. However, animals are animals after all. Even if they are psychic, they will not understand the twists and turns of humans, let alone the evil of human hearts. If it is just a speed competition, Marfa is indeed much weaker than the Black Panther known for its agility, but in terms of strength, Marfa is not inferior to Ebony at all, and even better. In addition, with the artifact summoned by Marfa from the system backpack, the Ebony Sword, it is not difficult to kill a Black Panther that has just been blinded by lime powder and whose brain is in chaos. Ling. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing the black magic witch Agatha Harkness's pet cat Ebony, and reward 2,000 experience points. Ling. Congratulations to the host for successfully deflecting the MCU plot, and reward 60 minutes of game time. Ling. In recognition of the host's first killing of a magical creature outside the game, the host is rewarded with an additional 60 minutes of game time. 3 consecutive system prompts sounded in Marfa's ears. Before Marfa could react, 2 warm currents flowed out of his body. In an instant, Marfa felt refreshed and free of fatigue. Marfa, who had experienced this feeling 5 times, naturally knew that this was a sign of his upgrade, and it was a 2-level upgrade. This wave of blood profit. Then, as if thinking of something, Marfa immediately sank his spirit into the sea of consciousness and chose to use the skill book that had been prepared in the system backpack. Skill Healing, Level 1. Release the power of the spirit to restore the physical strength, blood, of yourself or others. Chapter 9 How to Play the Game. Character, Marfa. Occupation, Taoist Priest. Level 8, Defense. 0-2, Magic Defense. 0 and 3, Attack. 6-10, Taoist Magic. 0 and 1, Physical Strength, Blood. 45-45, Magic Value, Blue. 31/31, Skill, Healing level 1, equipment, ebony sword, cloth, candle, iron bracelet 2, bronze ring 2, gold necklace. Legend is different from other online games. The improvement of attack and defense attributes brought by upgrading is negligible. The real big attribute still comes from equipment. However, upgrading does not mean that it has no effect at all. First of all, at the moment of upgrading, both blood and blue will be instantly restored. In other words, no matter how serious Marfa's injury is, as long as he upgrades, he will instantly recover to the best state. Secondly, the increase in the upper limit of blood and blue brought by upgrading is also very important. To put it bluntly, with Marfa's current blue, even if he is given a bunch of high-level skills, the blue consumption of the skills is not something he can afford. If one skill is used up and the blue is empty, then there is no point in playing. Marfa knew very well that with this upgrade, it might not be a problem to confront Ebony head-on. After all, with a healing spell, he could wear her down. But the real opponent was not Ebony, but the guy in the sky. The situation was stronger than the person. Judging from the current attribute values and skills, it was impossible to defeat Agatha. In just a moment, Marfa figured it all out. The key to breaking the game was still the legend. He had just killed Ebony and got 120 minutes of game time. If he made good use of these 120 minutes, he might be able to slightly increase his chances of survival. Thinking of this, Marfa ignored Agatha, who was slowly landing and temporarily putting down Natalia and walking towards him. Instead, he closed his eyes and sank his consciousness into the sea of consciousness. Tick, tick. It was still the quaint stone room. Occasionally, a few drops of water fell to the ground from the top of the stone room, making the dark stone room look particularly cold. After walking 2 steps forward in the dark, the lampposts on both sides of the stone gate suddenly ignited a blazing flame, and the gate was open with a hissing sound. Without further ado, Marfa rushed in at the first time, and disappeared into the dark tunnel without saying a word, following his previous experience. Soon, Marfa's figure came to the air wall again. Sure enough, the air wall was no longer frozen as before, and the words 0 minutes on the air wall also changed to 120 minutes. Breaking through the air wall, Marfa soon appeared in the border village again. No matter how long it takes in the legendary game world, it is only a moment outside. Marfa has verified this when he logged into the game last time. Marfa's plan is to use the 2-hour time difference to improve himself and try his best to think of a way to force Agatha back and save Natalia. First of all, judging from his current situation, 2 hours is obviously not enough for him to upgrade to the 18th level of the Soul Fire Charm and the 14th level of the Poison Spell with long-range skills. Secondly, the Legend game doesn't seem to be able to make magic weapons and props like magic grenades like in some online games. So, is there really no way? Damn, this broken game is simply rubbish. Can't we learn from Blizzard next door? At least there are auxiliary majors like Goblin Engineering. Cursing, Marfa suddenly had an idea and seemed to have thought of something. So, he didn't care about wasting the card, and immediately sat on the ground and sorted out his thoughts. Time passed by minute. Marfa had wasted more than 10 precious minutes, and beads of sweat slid down his forehead, soaking his fashion. It was at this time that Marfa finally understood his chance to beat Agatha. Yes, although this is a game world that imitates the legend, it is not a real legend after all. This can be seen from the fact that you can meditate and sweat can soak your clothes. Then why should I limit my thinking to the inherent rules of the legend? With a plan in mind, Marfa immediately ran towards the entrance of the border village. There was no time to lose, and the card was limited. I hope I can catch up. I hope I can catch up. Marfa muttered to himself, and his pace quickened a lot, fearing that he would miss this last hope because of his slow running. There were many hook cats, ray cats, scarecrows, deer. Marfa saw a lot of them along the way, and even saw a few half-orcs with hideous faces and bone sticks in their hands. He didn't pay too much attention to these guys. Marfa now has a clear goal. After running for another half an hour, finally, God will not let down those who work hard. Several poisonous spiders as big as motorcycles were squatting under the bushes not far away, enjoying the coolness of the shade. MMP. As long as he thought that he was looking for death here, but they were resting their eyes here, Marfa's heart was full of anger. Hey, grandson. He picked up a stone on the ground and threw it at a poisonous spider at the edge. 1. Obviously, Marfa's illegal operation was not recognized by the system. Therefore, Marfa's small stone only symbolically deducted 1 drop of blood from the poisonous spider. But this was enough for Marfa. The poisonous spider that was hid on the head was also depressed at this time. It was taking a nap at first, but it never thought that justice would come from heaven and was disturbed by a stone. You know, it just dreamed of a bunch of female spiders. Tisk tisk tisk. The poisonous spider stepped out its 8 long hairy legs and rushed towards the culprit with anger on its face, as if it wanted to eat Marfa alive. Tisk, before I let you go, I might have been a little afraid of you, but now. Marfa showed a look of contempt and immediately cast a healing spell on himself. In the legendary game, the healing effect of the healing spell is somewhat similar to that of the golden wound medicine. It is a continuous blood-adding skill, not the instant healing of the powerful solar water. With a blessing of healing, even if injured in battle, it can be repaired at a high speed under the effect of healing, which is Marfa's confidence. In view of the success of the previous stone-throwing taunt, Marfa's understanding of the legendary world he is in now has undergone earth-shaking changes. Yes, this is a legend simulated in the context of the real world after all. Compared with the 2.5D games of childhood, this world has more possibilities. Marfa used the ebony sword in his hand to cut off a branch as thick as his arm, holding the branch in one hand and rushing towards the poisonous spider with the ebony sword in the other. Seeing the 2 front legs of the poisonous spider sweeping towards it, Marfa held the branch and the ebony sword in front of him and blocked its attack. The poisonous spider was not willing to give up. Seeing that its attack was ineffective, it immediately opened its mouth and bit Marfa. Looking at its mouth full of green venom, Marfa can bet that if it bites it, the sourness will definitely be better than eating 10 buckets of old sauerkraut noodles. I've been waiting for you to do this. Marfa raised the corner of his mouth slightly, pulled out his left hand suddenly, and stuffed the branch into the mouth of the poisonous spider. Come on, young man, do a nucleic acid test. Woo. The poisonous spider had never seen such a shameless attack, and had never suffered such humiliation. For a moment, he was a little overwhelmed. As the saying goes, take advantage of your illness to kill you. 5, -5, -5. A series of bright red numbers floated over the head of the poisonous spider. Soon, the pitiful 42 points of the poisonous spider were chopped off by Marfa. Experience value plus 42. Is that the end? No, the next is the highlight. Marfa turned the body of the poisonous spider over, swung the ebony sword and slapped the poisonous spider's mouth. Let you be cheap, let you want to bite me. After a while, 2 poisonous spider teeth entered Marfa's package. Chapter 10, Piranha Plant and Poisonous Spider. There were about 7 or 8 poisonous spiders, and like the unlucky child before, they were all hiding in the shade of the trees and resting their eyes. Following the same method, Marfa killed them all in just over 10 minutes. Perhaps it was because the monsters in animal form were very poor. After a long time of struggling, no equipment was dropped. Instead, Marfa harvested 18 poisonous spider teeth. This is very nice. After all, the poisonous teeth are dug out from the corpses of poisonous spiders, and they are not obtained by drops like in the game. This is more or less a bug. After dealing with these furry and disgusting guys, plus some of the experience rewarded for killing Ebony before, Marfa's experience value has reached about 70% of level 8. At this time, level 9 is not far away from him. As we all know, Taoist priests will usher in their second skill at level 9, mental warfare. Mental warfare, by communicating with mental power, the hit rate in battle can be improved. Marfa has always maintained a skeptical attitude towards this skill. If it is placed in the game, whether it is a monster or other players, there is a certain chance of dodging, and this value can be improved through the agility of the equipment or the attributes such as dodge rate. However, as I said before, this is just a real world that highly restores the legend. If you hit it, you hit it, and if you miss it, you miss it. There is no such thing as dodging. So what is the meaning of the existence of this skill? Not only the Taoist priest, but also the warrior's level 7 skill, basic swordsmanship, is also a skill that increases the hit rate. So how to explain this thing? Vaguely, combining the characteristics of the two professions, Marfa seems to have some guesses. But on the one hand, it seems that there is only one player in this world at present, and the guess about the warrior cannot be confirmed. On the other hand, practice tests the truth, and Marfa's own blind guessing is indeed too idealistic. After a guess, the poisonous spider's teeth should be enough, and soon Marfa shifted his target to another monster. Piranha. Unlike the poisonous spiders everywhere, although the piranha is also one of the novice monsters, it can barely be called a rare monster. The reason for this is that the number of lurplants is not particularly high, at least compared to the poisonous spiders. It is pitifully small, but the most important reason is that it is difficult to find. Usually, lurplants hide themselves in the shallow underground, and only when someone passes by them will they suddenly drill out from the ground and attack them. Therefore, it is still quite difficult to find lurplants with the naked eye alone. The forests in the province of Biki are also second to none in the entire legendary world. They may be slightly worse than those in Byreman, but they can also be called lush and green. Running quickly on the tree-lined path, Marfa's heart was full of anxiety. After all, there is only 120 minutes of game time. If you can't find a lurplant, then you are not only wasting the game points in vain, but more importantly, when you return to the real world, Agatha will probably treat you well. After all, he killed his beloved pet. Not to mention Agatha, who had a face that said I am a villain. Anyone would be furious. After running in the jungle for 10 minutes, Marfa felt dry mouth and sweat all over. As time passed, the remaining game time became less and less, and Marfa became more and more anxious. Is it so difficult to find a few piranha plants? Why does it feel harder than fighting for the boss on the 3rd floor of Woma? Marfa muttered in his heart, and his mentality collapsed a little. But soon, a dazzling reflection not far away caught Marfa's attention. What is this? A pond? The next second, Marfa couldn't help but slap himself hard. Idiot. Why didn't I think of it before? Unlike other monsters, piranha plants are in plant form. In other words, it is very difficult for them to move. Compared with the dense jungle with scarce sunlight and scarce food, it is obvious that the edge of the pond is the best growth environment for them. After all, whether it is humans or monsters, they all need to replenish water, and the water pool is undoubtedly the best place for them. In addition, there are sparse trees and abundant sunshine beside the water pool. Without hesitation, Marfa immediately took a step and rushed towards the direction of the water pool. When he was close to the water pool, suddenly, the ground under his feet trembled slightly, and then a man-eating plant as tall as a person broke out of the ground, and immediately waved its thick vines and whipped towards Marfa. Ha ha ha! Found it! Marfa, who had been alert in his heart, immediately turned sideways on the spot and easily avoided the attack of the man-eating plant. Looking around, he saw that there were a lot of white bones piled up by the clear water pool not far away. Among them were human bones, and there were also some animal bones. He could even see 2 deer drinking water on the other side of the water pool. As expected, he was previously restricted by the inertial thinking of the game. The monsters in this world are indeed refreshed by some unknown power, but the monsters themselves still have some instincts or wisdom to a certain extent. In order to survive, they will not stay in the spawning place all the time, but will run for survival like real creatures. Just like the poisonous spiders hiding in the shade of the trees before, this piranha plant obviously prefers places like this one with abundant water, plenty of sunshine, and endless food. Just like using branches for nucleic acid testing when dealing with poisonous spiders before, Marfa has already made plans to deal with the piranha plant. It's not that you can't beat it by force, but if there is a more labor-saving way, why not do it? Immediately, Marfa took out the torch bought from the owner of the grocery store in the border village from the system backpack. Torches and candles, these 2 items are the most failed props when the legendary game was designed. The designer may have originally wanted to refer to the older standalone game, Diablo, to present the effect of reducing the visible range around the character once it gets dark. Equipping torches and candles can expand the visible range. However, after the actual test, it was found that this design was stupid. After all, this is an online game, not a standalone game with higher simulation. What players want is the pleasure of killing monsters and PK dropping equipment, not this kind of setting that affects the game experience. Therefore, in the later version update, the design team soon cancelled the setting of illuminating the range. However, this is a magical artifact for Marfa. After all, this is not a true legend. I saw him holding the torch tightly in his left hand, and in an instant, the top of the torch automatically burned, and the blazing flame swished, and the sound was quite exciting. Marfa's right hand was still holding the shiny black ebony sword, and he moved his feet lightly, slowly approaching the piranha plant. Sure enough, after feeling the torch in Marfa's hand, the piranha plant immediately showed a look of fear, and even the waving movements of the 4 vines on its side became slow. 5, -5, -5. 6, 5, -6, -5. 5. The pitiful 28 drops of blood of the piranha plant could not withstand Marfa's torment, and it was easily cut down by the knife. Very good. Marfa's mouth corners slightly raised, and his eyes unconsciously looked at several other places where the bones were densely packed. Chapter 11 War Preparations. 15 minutes, just 15 minutes, under the threat of the torch, Marfa easily killed more than 20 piranha plants. That's right, more than 20, and these piranha plants also provided him with more than 600 experience points, as well as a lot of piranha tree fruits and piranha leaves. Don't ask why the piranha plant can collect the leaves and fruits of the piranha tree. I don't know. The legendary designer may not have thought about the name at that time. Or in his impression, flowers and trees are the same thing. A warm current surged in his body again, and Marfa's level also reached level 9. Huh? With a long breath, Marfa felt refreshed. There is no time to lose. The remaining point card is less than 1 hour. If he wants to test his guess, Marfa has to rush to the next place. Hurry? Impossible. This is a fake legend that has been magnified many times. It may not be enough to go to the huge Bicky forest in 1 hour. Even if he had enough points, Marfa would not be willing to waste them. God knows when he will get the next point card. He silently took out a stack of rose-red scrolls from his backpack, gritted his teeth, and tore open one of them. In an instant, a spatial force enveloped Marfa's whole body, and then Marfa's figure began to become blurred like a three-dimensional projection. At the same time, in another corner of Bicky Province, a young man suddenly appeared, and then... Ugh. It turns out that the experience of using random teleportation scrolls is so bad. This is even worse than motion sickness. Marfa muttered in his mouth. At this moment, he seemed to be somewhat glad that he did not choose the magician profession. After all, the magician's instant movement skill is similar to the effect of random teleportation scrolls. Imagine using a skill and then vomiting yourself. What is this experience? He hurriedly opened the system map, and the next second, Marfa was stunned. This is actually farther away from Bicky City than the location just now. Despair, collapse. Whenever he thought about having to continue using the random teleportation scroll, Marfa felt his stomach churning. However, this gave Marfa another inspiration. It seems that I have to buy a few more random teleportation scrolls. It would be even better if I can buy a return scroll. After all, Bicky City is a big city, not like the Novus village of Border Village. I think I should be able to find some good things. Next, Marfa experienced the feeling of flying 6 times in a row. Finally, a majestic ancient city appeared in Marfa's sight. Is this Bicky City? It's too magnificent, even compared to the Forbidden City. Looking at the more than 5-meter high city wall made entirely of golden ratio rectangular blue stone blocks, Marfa couldn't help but be a little stunned. Especially the thick moss on the city wall. It seemed to add a bit of solemnity and sacredness to this ancient city. Ignoring the emotionless tools guarding the gate, Marfa immediately ran towards the pharmacy marked on the map. This is Marfa's real destination. As we all know, the Taoist's poisoning technique requires the help of 2 props, gray poison powder and yellow poison powder. The former can cause continuous damage to the opponent, while the latter can weaken the enemy's defense. These 2 toxins can overlap with each other, so usually, facing a powerful enemy, the Taoist often starts by double poisoning the opponent. Marfa's level has not yet reached level 14 and cannot learn the Taoist's poisoning technique, but this does not mean that he cannot use these 2 poison powders in advance, and the reasons are no longer repeated. Although Agatha is powerful, her physical strength is not much stronger than that of ordinary people. Let's not talk about the white magician of Marvel's Kamartaj lineage. Whether it is the future Scarlet Witch Wanda Maximoff or the current Natalia, neither of them has an excellent physique like those enhanced ability users who have been injected with this or that. It can even be said that in some aspects, they are not as good as ordinary people. After all, with magic, it is more convenient to do anything. Why bother to waste physical energy? After all this, long-term lack of physical exercise, won't the body fail? Wanda and Natalia are still like this, not to mention Agatha, who has been practicing magic for hundreds of years. As long as I can find a chance to give her some medicine, even if I can't beat her, I can make her lose a layer of skin. This is Marfa's idea. Walking into the pharmacy in Bicky Province, a strong and pungent smell of Chinese medicine began to invade Marfa's olfactory nerves. Fuck, no wonder Chinese medicine is not popular with young people nowadays. Not to mention the trouble, just this smell, I'm afraid it's hard for people to accept it. Marfa complained in his heart. To be fair, Chinese and Western medicine each have their own advantages. Isn't there a saying, Chinese medicine is good, Western medicine is fast, and the combination of Chinese and Western medicine has good efficacy. Even some Western medicine considers it to be terminally ill, but often there is still a glimmer of hope when it comes to Chinese medicine. However, in recent years, compared with the rapid development of Western medicine, Chinese medicine has been somewhat lonely. Marfa does not think that this is a problem of the ability of Chinese medicine itself, but that Western medicine is more in line with the fast-paced life of contemporary people. After paying the labor fee, Marfa quickly got 4 bags of gray powder, medium amount. Gray powder, medium amount, quantity. 600. It's not that Marfa doesn't want to make yellow powder, but mainly because that thing requires maggot eggs and scorpion tails, and these two monsters are mostly concentrated in the area of the orc tomb. Now time is tight, Marfa has to give up this plan for the time being. After getting all this done, Marfa immediately went to visit Big City. It must be said that big cities are big cities and have everything. Marfa first got himself a set of extreme equipment that is sold in the store and can be worn at present, and bought a book of mental power combat secrets, a bunch of gold wound medicine and magic medicine, and was lucky to buy 2 return scrolls and 3 random teleportation scrolls in the grocery store. Of course, before the card expired, Marfa went to the jewelry store to buy a platinum necklace. Marfa had brought the venison and chicken she collected to the real world before, thinking that it would be different from what she bought in the supermarket. For this reason, Marfa specially picked 2 pieces of the best quality meat. However, Agatha came too suddenly, so the 2 bloody pieces of meat are still lying in Marfa's backpack. The reason why she bought a platinum necklace this time was that she wanted to give it to Natalia as a gift. Of course, the most important thing was to see if the equipment brought out in the legend would be effective on others. If it could really be used by others, Marfa would not mind taking out the combat equipment that she could not use for Pietro and Wanda. At that time, the 3 brothers and sisters would have a fake warrior, a real mage, and a real Taoist priest. Wouldn't it be easier to do things? Once the MCU plot was deflected, she would be able to get more game cards. There was no reason to leave 2 free tools unused, right? Chapter 12 Negotiation. Character, Marfa. Occupation, Taoist. Level 9, Defense. 2-4, Magic Defense. 1 and 4, Attack. 6-8, Taoist Magic. 0 and 3, Physical Strength, Health. 50-50, Magic, Blue. 35/35, Skills, Healing Level 1, Mental Combat Level 1, Equipment, Ebony Sword, Cloth, Torch, Large Bracelet 2, Glass Ring 2, Gold Necklace. Large Bracelet, Durability. 10/10, Defense. 1-1, Required Level 9. Glass Ring, Durability. 3/3, Taoist Magic. 0-1, Required Level 7. Platinum Necklace, Durability. 10/10, Magic. 0-3, +1, Required Magic. 10. Yes, it is not without reason that Marfa chose this platinum necklace to give to Natalia. First of all, the platinum necklace is different from Marfa's current equipment. It has no level requirement, but instead requires a certain magic strength. This can rule out the problem that Natalia does not have a level problem like Marfa. Secondly, it can be seen from the attribute panel that this platinum necklace is a top quality product. You must know that the magic of an ordinary platinum necklace only adds 0-2. In order to buy this treasure of the town, Marfa almost emptied all his savings. Poor chicken and deer. If they knew that the money from selling their meat was finally exchanged for this necklace, I wonder what they would think. What made Marfa most happy was that he finally confirmed his guess. As expected, the mental force combat method did not increase his attack hit rate like in the game, but made him learn telekinesis, that is, the ability to control objects remotely. Marfa had thought about it long before. Whether it was the Taoist poison technique or the soulfire talisman, these 2 skills were to throw props at the opponent. So the question is, how can powder and paper accurately hit the enemy dozens of meters away? The mental force combat method gave Marfa the answer. According to Marfa's understanding, the reason why the mental force combat method can increase the hit rate is that it can forcibly modify the attack trajectory through telekinesis when the enemy is ready to dodge. so as to hit the enemy. By analogy, the basic swordsmanship of a warrior is probably not as simple as just increasing the hit rate. It may be a set of exquisite attack techniques. Of course, although he has learned a level 1 mental force combat method, that is, telekinesis, it is not enough to perform the poisoning technique and soul fire charm. The root cause is that the control power is insufficient and the strength is not enough. But if it is not quantitatively and accurately applying poison at a long distance, but directly controlling the poison powder bag to hit the enemy, Marfa can still do it. The trial version of poisoning and the trial version of soul fire charm came into being. Looking at the remaining game time, there are still more than 30 minutes, and Marfa is not going to waste time here for the time being. This time is not enough for him to upgrade to level 1. Instead of wasting it, it is better to keep it. In case of urgent need in the future, he can come in again. After all, compared to the outside world, the time in the game is negligible. Even if he hides in to think about countermeasures, it is still a good idea. In the blink of an eye, Marfa's consciousness has returned to the real world. Of course, what greeted him was a purple-black magic bullet. Bang! A violent explosion sounded, and the powerful impact caused Marfa's body to be pushed back 5 meters away. Cough cough. Cough cough. Accompanied by a violent cough, Marfa's body swayed slightly and barely stood up. Asshole, I was not careful for a moment and actually forgot this. Indeed, more than an hour in the game world has made Marfa unconsciously ignore that Agatha was about to attack him when he entered the game. The change of scenes in an instant made him a little overwhelmed. Huh? Agatha frowned, obviously underestimated Marfa. In her imagination, this magic bullet was enough to kill Marfa to the point of death. Of course, the reason why she didn't kill him directly was mainly because of Natalia's fierce resistance just now. Agatha knew that if she really killed the boy in front of her, Natalia would wake up and fight with her. Anyway, as long as the boy in front of her didn't get in the way, it would be fine. As for Ebony, let her die. Although Agatha spent a lot of effort to cultivate it, compared with the long-awaited chaos magic, Ebony is somewhat insignificant. At most, she can wait until she absorbs the chaos magic energy and then come back to kill this family. In short, it doesn't matter as long as it doesn't affect her absorption of chaos magic. But what she never expected was that this magic bullet only caused the boy in front of her to suffer some minor injuries. This simply refreshed Agatha's 3 views. Of course, Marfa on the other side didn't care about it. Are you kidding? I now have a full 1-to-4 magic defense, which is 4 times higher than when I just entered the game. And with the increase in level, Marfa's physical, blood, limit has also made a qualitative leap. This magic bullet seems to be extremely powerful, but in fact, for Marfa, it is just a lot of thunder and little rain. Healing. He cast a healing spell on himself. In an instant, a blue and green brilliant light ball appeared above Marfa's head, rotating around it, and sprinkling a little bit of misty light. And Marfa's injuries began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. This is interesting. Agatha was a person who is very enthusiastic about magic, otherwise she would not have secretly studied black magic at the risk of being executed. Over the years, Agatha has learned a lot of magic from the Dark God book, and while increasing her knowledge, she has also gained powerful power. However, the magic that Marfa just performed was something she had never seen before. This is like those stamp collectors who think they have collected almost all stamps, but one day they find that a guy they despise actually has a stamp that they don't have. Even if he has a similar stamp, or the value of this stamp is not very high and it is dispensable to him, but due to his enthusiasm for stamp collecting, this person will still have a strong desire to possess it. You are her child, right? Agatha pointed at Natalia, who was lying on the ground not far away. So what? If you dare to touch my relatives, I will not let you go easily. Marfa shouted coldly. Ahahaha. Child, this is the funniest joke I have heard in this century. How about this, child, let's make a deal. I don't care if you killed my pet. Give me the magic you just cast, and I will spare your life. Marfa heard this and immediately made a slightly moved look, but still spoke stubbornly. If you let my mother go, I can consider it. Let's not talk about whether the game skills can be learned by others. Even if they can, Marfa will not give them to Agatha. However, as the saying goes, if you want to find a chance to turn the tables, this may not be an opportunity. But if you just agree to it, Agatha, who has lived for hundreds of years, will obviously not believe you easily. After all, you just shouted at her to fight and kill her, and she betrayed you in a short time? That's too fake. Therefore, Marfa pretended to hesitate at first, and then discussed the conditions with Agatha. This acting skill is so good that she is just short of winning the little golden man. Chapter 13 Goodbye. As expected, Marfa's hesitant, 3/10 hesitant and 7/10 decisive look finally won Agatha's trust. But could Agatha give up the chaos magic she dreamed of just because of this healing spell? Obviously impossible. But this did not affect Agatha's deceiving the boy in front of her. Anyway, she had to cheat the magic first. As for regretting it later, she was a witch, and she didn't keep her word. What was that? At most, she would kill the boy later. It was not a big deal. Agatha swore that she would never lose sleep because of deceiving a child. As for what tricks Marfa would play? Would Agatha be afraid? Are you kidding? Pursing her lips slightly, Agatha pretended to think about it for a while, and then nodded slightly. Okay, if you teach me the magic you just performed, I will let your mother go. After all, I have already absorbed a lot of magic power. Agatha lied without blinking an eye. Can adult matters be called cheating? That's called fooling around. Yes, it's fooling around. So, the two people with their own ulterior motives walked towards each other as if nothing had happened. Marfa quietly took out the surprise that had been prepared for Agatha from the system space, the return scroll. Of course, it was added with ingredients. Marfa was not sure whether Agatha's magic attainments could successfully resist the special force brought by the return scroll. But if a little gray powder was added, it would be hard to say. Marfa carefully took out a simple green scroll from his arms, and his hands were shaking constantly, as if he was not holding a magic scroll, but a share certificate of Stark Industries, and he felt extremely painful. Agatha was not easily fooled. As a person who had lived for hundreds of years, she was well informed about magic items. When she first saw the scroll in Marfa's hand, she immediately sensed the strong magic fluctuations from the scroll. Really? I didn't expect that this inconspicuous boy had the same adventure as me. I gained the Dark God book and my strength increased greatly. Although the scroll in this boy's hand did not seem as thick as the Dark God book, it was not a simple magic item, whether from its texture or from the magic fluctuations emitted by the scroll. Maybe there are really a lot of rare magics recorded on it, but because the boy is still young, he has not fully learned it. It has to be said that invisible brain supplements are the most deadly. At this time, Agatha had regarded the scroll in Marfa's hand as the heirloom of the Scarlet Witch. For a while, her eyes turned red when she looked at the green scroll. She was just about to shout, "I want this. I can give you the things, but you must keep your promise. Take the things and leave immediately, and never bother my family again." At this time, Marfa was still acting, as if possessed by a drama spirit, and played all the expressions of reluctance, hesitation, pain, worry, to the extreme. Ahem. Agatha, who realized that she had lost her composure, coughed twice to cover up the greed in her eyes. "Don't worry, I am a witch. Would I lie to you, a child? You think too highly of yourself." Although she said this, Agatha actually thought about not being so hesitant and directly snatching it away, thinking that Marfa would be powerless to resist. But considering Marfa's resistance to her magic before, Agatha still had some doubts in her heart. If she really came hard, if she used too much force and killed Marfa, Natalia would definitely fight with her. If she used too little force and left Marfa with the opportunity to destroy the magic scroll, then she would lose more than she gained. Anyway, Natalia was still confused. Agatha was not in a hurry. It would be nice to perform a stage play with this kid in front of her. When the scroll is in hand, how to control Marfa will be up to her. While thinking, Marfa had already thrown the scroll to Agatha. Without any doubt, Agatha immediately controlled the magic to take the scroll. After getting the scroll, Agatha suddenly felt that the scroll in her hand was not simple. The strange magic fluctuation was something she had never seen before. She was overjoyed and didn't care about anything else. She directly opened the teleportation scroll. In an instant, countless gray poison powders spread out from the scroll. In just a moment, Agatha became a little green man. That's right, gray powder, which is one of the important props of the Taoist poisoning in the legend. Only 6/100th of a bag of powder is enough to dye a boss green and continue to lose blood. And this time, Marfa added 1/10 of a bag of gray powder in the return scroll. If adding too much would not arouse Agatha's suspicion, Marfa would not mind smearing the whole bag on her face. Yamidi. Obviously, Agatha was enjoying the surprise Marfa gave her. The poison powder corroded every cell in Agatha's body from the outside to the inside, and the burning pain made Agatha couldn't help but scream. "Little beast, what did you do to me?" Agatha pulled her throat and barely squeezed out these few words from her teeth. "Oh my lovely witch sister. Why are you so careless? Look at you, green. It's almost blinding my eyes." Marfa's words were like gasoline poured on Agatha's burning flame, almost making Agatha's nose crooked. Fortunately, Marfa knew that if the grey powder was not blessed by the poison technique, it would have a very limited effect and would last for a short time. In other words, without the auxiliary massage of the poison technique, it would not be marinated. Without further ado, Marfa immediately used the mental force combat method. In an instant, an invisible force spread out from Marfa's body and directly attached to the city return scroll that Agatha was holding tightly. Swish! The city return scroll was torn open, and the space force sealed by the scroll immediately wrapped Agatha's body. Swoosh! The light and shadow flashed by, and only Agatha's afterimage was left at the original place, proving that she had been there. Goodbye. After successfully sending the old witch away, Marfa's hanging heart was finally put down. The city return scroll can send the user back to her subconscious home. Marfa didn't know where Agatha's subconscious home was, but it was definitely not in Sokovia. Otherwise, with Marvel's nature, there is no reason not to make an Easter egg or something to hint at it in the original plot. Fortunately, there was no danger, and this matter was finally passed. The next thing to do is to move as soon as possible. It will take only a few minutes for the poison in Agatha's body to fade away. If she rushes overnight with a broom, that will be bad. Marfa rushed to Natalia's side. He sniffed her breath. Her breathing was a bit chaotic, but not weak. Healing spell. The blue-green ball of light was summoned again. For a moment, Natalia seemed to be blessed by the gods and was shrouded in light. Her dry and aged skin gradually recovered at this moment. No, the healing spell is not strong enough. Natalia has been injured by Agatha at this time. Marfa gritted his teeth and took out a 10,000 years snowfrost from his backpack. He bought it when he was shopping in Biki City. He wanted to use it for emergency, but he didn't expect to use it so soon. 10,000 years snowfrost is a healing medicine that can restore 100 points of magic and health in an instant. Thinking back to the past, when Marfa in his previous life was playing legend and fighting bosses, he almost always relied on this thing to prolong his life. He forced the ginseng-shaped snowfrost into Natalia's mouth. Sure enough, after just a few breaths, Natalia's face looked much better. Marfa. When she opened her eyes and saw that her son was alive and well, Natalia was so excited that she shed tears, and she hugged Marfa tightly with both hands, fearing that he would suddenly disappear from her sight. Chapter 14. Where is Nini? Marfa explained to Natalia what had just happened with the reservation. Although there were many loopholes in his words, he finally managed to explain the whole story. Natalia was also an open-minded mother. Knowing that her son had grown up and had his own little secrets, she did not ask too many questions. Natalia had 100% trust in her son, who had always been steady. The two returned to the basement, woke up Django and others who were knocked unconscious by Marfa, and immediately began to pack up their belongings quickly. Mom, what happened just now? Why was our house demolished? Are we moving? Did we say it would take some time? Pietro Maximov's mouth was like a string of questions. You still say? It's you who fights and makes trouble outside all day long. Now the victim comes to our door and blows up our house directly. Natalia rolled her eyes at her stupid son in annoyance and continued to pack her bags. Pietro. Marfa's cheeks twitched when she heard this, and she almost couldn't hold it back. My stupid Oni-chan. It's hard for you to take the blame. Natalia and Django had already obtained the green card to the United States in advance. Of course, Marfa had no way of knowing whether Natalia used magic to do anything. So the five of them took the expensive expedited flight tickets to New York with their big and small bags, as if they were running for their lives. At the same time, in a dilapidated castle in the UK, Agatha's face was as gloomy as water. A witch who had lived for hundreds of years was fooled by a young boy. Agatha said she could never swallow this. But how did she come to this place inexplicably? Agatha was still a little confused. Everything around her was familiar to her. Hundreds of years ago, she swore to join the witches gathering here, and it was also here that she started her magic career. Of course, it was also here that she was pushed to the gallows by the group of witches. Hundreds of years passed in the blink of an eye, and Agatha revisited the old place again, feeling as if she had been in another world. Well, a century or 100 years, it was indeed nearly 4 centuries. Knowing that the Maximov family must have slipped away, Agatha did not chase them again on a broomstick as Marfa had guessed. Although Britain is not far from Sokovia, it would take her half a day to get there at her speed. By then, God knows where the family has gone. In short, her actions this time were too hasty, and she did not make any advance preparations at all, and she was careless for a while. It was too late to save it now. But Agatha was not in a hurry about it. She had waited for hundreds of years, so she was not in a hurry. It was not a complete waste of effort this time. First, she absorbed a lot of Natalia's chaos magic, and Agatha needed some time to digest it and try to convert her magic into more powerful chaos magic. Second, through this incident, Agatha also knew the identity of the contemporary Scarlet Witch. As long as we go to Sokovia again, it is not impossible to find out where these people are going. At the very least, we can find out the names of this family. Next, as long as we pay attention to the real-time dynamics in the supernatural circle, I believe it will not take too long to find clues about the Maximoff family. Walking alone in this dilapidated castle, Agatha felt that her previous anger had subsided a lot. After all, this is where she grew up. Even if there are many bad memories, it still gives her an incomparable sense of security. On the other hand, the United States is in turmoil at this time, and the entire stock market is even more unpredictable. The source of all this is that Tony Stark, the CEO of the contemporary Stark Industries Group, disappeared on his way out for a weapons demonstration. As a result, the stock of Stark Industries Group fell by nearly 30 percentage points, and it is still falling rapidly. Countless stockholders took to the streets to protest, demanding that the U.S. government mobilize all its forces to find Tony Stark to recover their losses. Trident headquarters of SHIELD. Nick Fury was anxious at this time. The U.S. government put pressure on the UN Security Council and issued 7 urgent tasks to S.H.I.E.L.D. The source of each action mission was the playboy Tony Stark. But what could Nick Fury do? Tony Stark disappeared in Afghanistan. At this time, S.H.I.E.L.D's Skynet system has not been completely perfected. Coincidentally, Afghanistan is the blind spot of the Skynet system. Bang! A punch pierced the computer screen on the table. At this time, Nick Fury wanted to fly a plane to Afghanistan to find Tony Stark himself. Damn it, where did this kid go? I'm almost scolded by those people in the Security Council. As one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the son of Howard Stark, Nick Fury is very concerned about Tony. In private and public terms, he has the responsibility and obligation to give an explanation to Stark Industries. But the problem is that S.H.I.E.L.D. is not a god. It can't just say that the wind is rain. Urge, urge, urge. If urging is useful, then what is the use of the police? Do you really think that urging can make a third child come out? Coulson. Nick Fury lost his usual demeanor at this time. He did not need a paging device and just shouted loudly. The sound was transmitted directly to the office next door through the solid wood door. Soon Phil Coulson ran into Nick Fury's office happily. Director Fury, I'm sorry. I have been contacting the local department in Afghanistan and Lieutenant Colonel James Rhodes of the U.S. military. Now the whole world is looking for Tony Stark like crazy. According to the search, Tony Stark's body was not found, so it is not difficult to guess that Tony Stark was probably kidnapped. I just contacted Stark Industries again. If they receive any news from the kidnappers, they will contact us as soon as possible. As a veteran of SHIELD and a loyal supporter of Nick Fury, Phil Coulson has a deep understanding of his director's personality. In this special period, Coulson obviously knew what Nick Fury was worried about, and he also knew that it was best not to offend this black brine egg at this time. Therefore, as soon as he entered the office, without waiting for Fury to speak, Coulson reported the relevant information about Tony. Of course, Nick Fury was not the kind of person who would easily vent his anger on his subordinates. His anger just now was purely because he was forced into a hurry by the Security Council. Hearing that Coulson arranged things in an orderly manner, he nodded with satisfaction. You go to General Ross of the U.S. military again. He is in charge of the U.S. spy satellites. Afghanistan is an important step in the military's layout. Maybe you can take some useful intelligence. After that, Nick Fury waved his hand and signaled Coulson to do it immediately. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15. Tobey Maguire? In a civilian apartment in the northern part of Brooklyn, New York. The small space of 80 square meters now accommodates 5 people. It can be said that the living conditions are quite difficult. There is no doubt that this family is the Maximov family who fled to New York from Sokovia. The northern part of Brooklyn is one of the worst areas in New York City. It is a headache for the mayor of New York City, along with the Bronx where blacks gather and Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan where black forces are everywhere. This is a gathering place for Asians, Hispanics, and blacks. Different values and religious beliefs have caused constant conflicts in this area. Although it is not as terrible as a gunfight everywhere, it is also very unsafe to travel alone at night. Marfa, who had watched Marvel movies in her previous life, knew that the famous Captain America, Steve Rogers, was from Brooklyn, but now it seems that he is most likely from South Brooklyn. Although the two belong to the same district, they are completely two different police stations responsible for public security. Whether in terms of infrastructure or the racial structure of permanent residents, the two are also very different. Unlike China, where Marfa lived in her previous life, the United States is a relatively xenophobic country, whether it is for people of color or for non-natives. In this regard, it is not even close to China, which sings that 56 ethnic groups are one family. The reason why Natalia and Django decided to move here is that the housing prices here are just like cabbage compared to the two wealthy areas of Manhattan and Long Island. Of course, the main reason is that the New York Temple under Kamar Taj is also in North Brooklyn. If Agatha really chases after her, her family can run to the New York Temple for refuge in the shortest time. The New York Temple is one of the 3 major temples in the world, which is related to the stability of the space dimension. Even if Kamar Taj is unwilling to protect her family, it is impossible to watch the temple being damaged. Only by living here can Natalia feel truly safe. As for those street thugs, Natalia doesn't think they will pose a threat to her and her family. The mysterious confidence of a witch JPG. Unlike Wanda, who looked disgusted, Pietro and Marfa were quite satisfied with their new home. The former was because on the first day of moving in, he became friends with a boy named Grant Gustin next door. Both of them were lively and active, and running became their daily competition. P.S. Vote for recommendation if you understand the meme. As for Marfa, it was because New York Chinatown, one of the 2 largest Chinatowns in the United States, was less than 3 kilometers away from this new home. Thinking that he could finally eat a steaming bun, Marfa was excited. At the gate of Midtown High School. Looking at the big words Midtown High School written on the school gate, Marfa felt her eyelids twitching uncontrollably. What a joke, am I an alumnus of Spider-Man? This is not funny at all. But in just a moment, Marfa reacted and realized that she was overthinking. Peter Parker was born in 2001. In the plot of Captain America 3, he first appeared when he was only 15 years old. In other words, he is only in elementary school now. Huh? He heaved a long sigh of relief. Anyone can be the protagonist of MCU. The only ones Marfa didn't want to meet were Peter Parker, Peter Quill and Scott Lang. These 3 guys, known as the 3 idiots of Marvel, will definitely drive people crazy with their nagging personalities. Poor Gamora and Tony. Hey. Hello, are you also a new transfer student? A boy with glasses behind him saw Marfa standing at the school gate with a thoughtful look on his face. After hesitating for a moment, he stepped forward and patted Marfa on the shoulder and greeted him. Yes, my name is Marfa, Marfa Maximoff, please take care of me. Marfa smiled at the boy behind him and said, Hello, my name is Tobey Maguire, and I am also a transfer student like you. Tobey Maguire is very kind to people, but he is a little unconfident in his bones. In fact, it is better to say that he is a transfer student than a forced transfer student. In the previous school, he was a complete victim of campus bullying. The reason why Tobey finally stepped forward and greeted Marfa resolutely was that he hoped that the two would take care of each other. It is not difficult to see that Tobey is a shy boy who looks like someone who is easy to bully. Marfa was secretly evaluating Tobey in her heart. Wait? Tobey Maguire? As if she had thought of something, Marfa immediately widened her eyes and looked unbelievable. Your name is Tobey Maguire. Marfa's tone was a little suspicious. Huh? That's right. Do we know each other? Tobey touched his head, as if he was also recalling whether he had seen this boy named Marfa. Do you have an uncle, Named Ben Parker. Marfa asked uncertainly. As soon as the words came out, Marfa secretly cursed herself. Are you stupid? People said that her last name was Maguire. How could she have an uncle named Parker? However, Toby's next answer did make Marfa begin to doubt her life. I am indeed staying at my uncle's house, but his name is Ben Maguire. You. Marfa took 2 steps back, as if he couldn't believe his ears. What's going on? Spider-Man? You changed your vest and thought I didn't recognize you? However, at this moment, Marfa heard the system prompt. Ling. Congratulations to the host for triggering the special mission. Tiger and mouse are not distinguishable. Mission objective: help Tobey Maguire become Spider-Man. Mission reward: unknown. Mission description: if there are 2 Spider-Men in a world, are you still worried about not being able to deflect the MCU plot? The system will actually trigger the mission passively? At this moment, Marfa couldn't help but be curious about his system. At first, Marfa only thought that this was a live-action version of the legendary game, but later it was confirmed that this game can not only bring out the character attributes and skills in the game, but also prove that the props in the game can be brought out through experiments with chicken and venison. Speaking of the meat brought out from the legend, the taste is really nothing to say, and Marfa even faintly feels that these meats have an excellent effect on nourishing the body. Ahem, I've strayed off topic. Marfa had given Natalia the platinum necklace on the plane. At first, Natalia only felt that this thing was a bit strange, as if it would devour her magic power, which almost made Natalia, whose origin was already damaged, faint on the spot. But after the platinum necklace was devoured, it seemed to recognize its master and began to feed back to Natalia's body. Even as long as she wore the platinum necklace, Natalia felt that she was no worse now than before her origin was damaged. This really surprised Natalia. You know, even an organization with a long heritage like Kamartaj has a limited number of treasured magic props. And the necklace that Marfa took out, I think, even if it was placed in Kamartaj, it would be a treasure. This incident shocked Natalia, and of course it also shocked Marfa. The experiment was successful. The legendary game equipment can really be brought out and given to others to use. This made Marfa even more curious about this magical legendary system. And now, the system can actually trigger special tasks. Chapter 16 Midtown High School. No matter what, it's useless to think so much. Marfa immediately chose to accept the task. Tobey Maguire, if you are a true fan of Spider-Man, you will definitely know that this person is the actor who played Peter Parker in the Spider-Man movie released by Sony in 2002. In other words, this guy now changed his vest and appeared in front of him. This is crazy. The most important thing is that the system has to help him become Spider-Man. Marfa can imagine that after several years, when Tobey Maguire meets Holland, oh, no. It should be said that he meets Peter Parker. The scene is a little exciting just thinking about it. So, one of them wanted the other to take care of himself, and the other was planning how to make the other become Spider-Man. For a while, they talked happily, and they were as close friends who had known each other for many years before they entered the classroom. Unlike the exam-oriented education method in China, where all students sit upright, teachers write quickly, and students concentrate on taking notes, the United States obviously pays more attention to practice, and classroom discipline is also a more casual kind. As a time traveler, Marfa does not have a high learning talent like his predecessor, but after all, he has 2 lives of memory, and he learned a lot of theoretical knowledge in his previous life. Now he can combine theory with practice. After a few classes, his wonderful performance and occasional unique ideas have attracted the praise of several teachers. As for Tobey, unlike the genius character of Spider-Man in MCU and the Amazing Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is actually only average in learning talent, not as good as the best, but better than the worst. At most, he can be regarded as the type with a wider range of knowledge. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to take selfies in order to get a job in a newspaper after graduation. Okay, students, today's class is over. In the afternoon, you can go to the laboratory to verify what you have learned today, or go to the school library to look at materials related to the course. Of course, I don't think you will choose this option. Maybe you think it would be more pleasant to find a handsome guy or a beautiful girl to date, right? Finally, don't forget to hand in your homework tomorrow. Okay, then get out of class is over. In the classroom, a Mediterranean teacher made a last statement incessantly, which made Marfa stunned. Are you sure this is the teacher? How can this be? Isn't it a delay of class or something? And what do you mean by encouraging students to date? Obviously, Marfa has not completely changed her mind until now. Although the education methods of Sokovia and the United States can be said to be relatively similar, they are not as open as the United States. Not to mention Marfa's students' memories in her previous life, which are simply a world of difference. As soon as Mediterranean left, the classroom instantly became lively. You should know that Marfa has very rare silver hair, and the Maximov family has good genes. Therefore, in terms of appearance, Marfa is definitely a more handsome type in the crowd. Since he gained strong strength in the legendary game, Marfa is full of confidence and an inexplicable atmosphere inside and outside, which makes him particularly attractive to the adolescent girls in the classroom. After a while, the girls in the class surrounded Marfa in 3 circles. Some asked Marfa where he lived, some asked Marfa if he had a girlfriend, and some directly handed over the love letter that had been secretly prepared in class. Good guy. This scene directly saw Tobey Maguire not far away and dropped his jaw. Of course, good popularity with women means that it is easier to be jealous of men in most cases. Flash Thompson was originally the most handsome boy in the grade 11 class. He was pretty good-looking, tall, and muscular. More importantly, he came from a wealthy family and often drove a sports car around school. He was the focus of all the girls in grade 11. However, today, his limelight was completely stolen by this silver-haired kid. How could he accept this? It was noon, and when Marfa had tried her best to shake off those beautiful girls, the cafeteria had already passed its peak period. At a glance, only a few students were still eating. As Marfa's good friend, Tobey naturally walked with Marfa. The two came to the window, and Tobey spoke first. "Excuse me, please help me get a student meal." As soon as the words fell, the cafeteria lady immediately picked up the spoon, secretly glanced at Tobey, and then quickly scooped a spoonful of boiled peas, then shook it again, and shook it again. In a short while, the full spoonful of peas just now was reduced to only a few. Then the aunt followed the same method: fried chicken nuggets, apple cubes, mashed potatoes, beef patties. In short, the dishes were quite rich, but what was actually put on Tobey's plate could only be said to be barely enough to fill him up. Soon it was Marfa's turn. "Beautiful lady, I hope my rude friend has not caused you any trouble. Please allow me to apologize to you on his behalf. In addition, can you trouble me to get a meal for me?" Marfa's polite appearance immediately made the cafeteria lady look up and look at the visitor. I saw handsome and elegant short silver hair, and the bangs on the forehead made the ant's eyes sparkle. The blue eyes and the strong nose bridge, although the skin color is not like that of pure-blooded white people, it looks more sunny and cheerful. The most important thing is that Marfa is sweet-mouthed. Who doesn't like to hear nice words? What did she just call her? Beautiful lady, ha ha ha. The aunt was secretly happy. You kid, you only know how to be slick. The cafeteria aunt rolled her eyes at Marfa in a reproachful manner, and then directly scooped a large spoonful of fried chicken nuggets into Marfa's plate. Then, it seemed that it was still a little less, so she added another half spoonful and nodded slightly. Peas, beef patties. In a short while, Marfa walked to Tobey with a plate piled up like a mountain. Fuck. Is this okay? It must be said that Marfa's behavior just now definitely refreshed Tobey's 3 views. It turned out that the cafeteria aunt fell for this trick. Tisk, what's that? A sweet mouth won't hurt you. This is the wisdom of the ancient East. Boy, learn from it. Marfa looked proud and walked towards the dining area first, leaving Tobey alone with the 3 melons and 2 dates, standing in the wind in a mess. Seeing Marfa turning back and joking with Tobey from time to time, Flash Thompson, who was eating by the aisle, couldn't help but draw a sinister arc at the corner of his mouth. He quietly stretched out his right leg, trying to trip Marfa, who was unprepared. At this time, Marfa's vision was blocked by the plate, and he was teasing Tobey from time to time. If it were anyone else, he would probably be tripped by Flash and make a fool of himself. But is Marfa an ordinary person? Obviously not. Even though Marfa replaced a lot of equipment that increased attack power in order to improve the Taoist attributes, which reduced his strength a lot, it was still far beyond the reach of ordinary people. Closer, closer and closer. Flash stared at Marfa, who was getting closer and closer to him, looking forward to the next exciting scene. Chapter 17, Being a Man is Difficult. Snap. The sound of the bone breaking was crisp and pleasant, but then a scream like a pig being slaughtered sounded. All the students who were still eating in the cafeteria looked over. At this time, the class flower of grade 11, Flash Thompson, was lying on the ground with his liver-colored face, holding his right leg tightly. Marfa, who was standing next to him, looked at him innocently, as if saying, "Don't look at me, this has nothing to do with me." Tears, snot, saliva, vegetable soup. All kinds of unknown liquids covered Flash's face, and his miserable appearance was unbearable to look at. "That? Thompson. Are you okay? Look at you, you don't eat properly, you don't sit properly, can't you just eat properly? You have to stretch your legs so long, I'm holding the plate, I can't see your legs at all. Look, how about you bear it for a while? Wait until I finish eating, I'll take you to the infirmary." Marfa immediately threw out a comforting word with a hint of blame. Flash Thompson, oh, listen, this is what a human being says. Wait until you finish eating before taking me to the infirmary. Why don't you say you can take a nap after eating and then take me there? Flash Thompson's family runs several hotel chains, and his family is quite rich, so he has been spoiled by his parents since he was a child, and he can be said to have everything he wants. He has been used to the life of a rich young master, so how could he endure such pain and humiliation? But what Marfa said just now was right, how can you stretch your legs out while eating? Coupled with the classmates who quickly gathered around to eat melons, Flash Thompson felt ashamed for a moment, and could only vent the double pain of his heart and body with screams. At this time, Toby also squeezed in from the crowd and saw Flash on the ground. Although he didn't know what happened just now, from the way Flash looked at Marfa fiercely, it was obvious that this matter was related to his good friend. Toby has always been kinda a complete good guy. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to be bullied repeatedly and forced to transfer schools. Thinking that it is better to have less trouble than more, he immediately put down his plate and walked forward to help the other person up. "Get out of here." Flash saw that the guy with Marfa actually wanted to pretend to be a good person to humiliate him, so he didn't want to. He immediately glared at him, and subconsciously kicked Toby with the remaining uninjured foot. Toby was not paying attention and was kicked by him, causing him to stagger and fall to the ground. This scene really scared the people around. You know, Flash usually gave them the impression of a bully who bullies the weak. Of course, many girls who are in their rebellious period will not be disgusted by this, but will think Flash is very manly. But what no one expected was that even in this situation, Flash was still so arrogant. So everyone dispersed immediately, no one dared to come up to help, and no one wanted to mess with this little bully. "Toby, you are indeed more kind, okay? I think you won't be angry when I say this. You are a good person, but you don't need to be like that to everyone. Let me teach you another lesson. There is an old saying in the East, a good horse is ridden by others, and a good person is bullied by others. Sometimes you need to learn how to put yourself in the right position." To be honest, Marfa had seen a lot of good people in her previous life, such as the spare tire for 1,000 years, the old lady who helped the old lady cross the road, and the body donation. Doing good things is certainly worthy of praise and admiration, but not everyone deserves to be helped. Aren't there a few blackmailing people these days? Haven't you seen a good person donate his eyes to someone else, but that person killed his goddess in return? Abitro, I suspect you are talking about me, or to say something more recent, in the plot of Captain America 3, in order to prevent the bomb tied to crossbones from exploding in the crowd, Wanda used magic to lead the explosion to high altitude, but it ended up blowing up half of the building, which eventually became the fuse of the Sokovia Accords incident, leading to his house arrest by Tony Stark and Vision. Vision was even more shameless. He took advantage of Wanda's self-blame and guilt, and took advantage of the opportunity. He was obviously a vibranium robot, but he wanted to ruin Wanda and waste her youth. Whenever Marfa thought of her sister being put in various strange positions by a robot in the future, she would be furious. She secretly made up her mind that she would never entrust her sister to a robot that could not give her sexual happiness. Marfa dared to swear to the sky that she was definitely not trying to deflect the plot to get game points. Soon, the school doctor of Central City High School came over. Several people looked at the tearful Flush with disgust, and then carried him on a stretcher to the school doctor. Marfa was also honored to be called to the dean's office on the first day of school. Fortunately, there was surveillance in the school cafeteria, and the dean did not make it difficult for Marfa. He just asked him to take the time to apologize to Flush and let it go. At the same time, Django Maximoff encountered trouble. Perhaps because of the bond between father and son, Marfa accidentally kicked and broke Flush's leg on the first day of school, and as his father, How could he lose face for his son? Django, who had just found a job in an antique shop, accidentally broke a jade bracelet worth tens of thousands of dollars on his first day at work. The shop owner was a weird old man, with messy hair, unkempt appearance, and a difficult look. However, the shop owner was not angry about Django's mistake, and did not even blame Django. He just asked Django to work hard and deducted part of his salary every month in the future. It was precisely because of this that Django felt even more guilty. He caused such a big trouble on the first day of work. If it were Django himself, he would have fired himself long ago. It was too difficult, and he was unfamiliar with the place. In order to give his children a better education and to avoid the danger of Natalia keeping silent, Django could only grit his teeth and bear it. When he got home from get-off work, his wife Natalia was already preparing dinner. "Honey, how was your work today?" Natalia asked with a smile in the kitchen. As soon as these words came out, Django instantly turned into a wilted eggplant, revealing a lifeless look. "What's wrong?" Noticing her husband's abnormality, Natalia asked with concern. At this moment, the door of the house was opened, and Wanda, Marfa and Pietro filed in. "Mom and Dad, let me tell you, I made a lot of friends at school today." Pietro's face flushed, and he excitedly talked about his school life. In addition, Marfa was taken to the training office today for a lecture. When he said this, Pietro's excitement was hard to suppress. You know, when he was in Sokovia before, it was always him who was taken to the training office. And Django and Natalia always compared him with Marfa, showing the appearance of someone else's child. Although Pietro was jealous of his brother Marfa, he never hated him. Instead, he always defended his nerdy brother in front of outsiders. But it was a rare opportunity to see his brother being taught a lesson in front of his parents, so Pietro was still willing to take advantage of it. Pa. Before Pietro could finish, Django slapped the table hard. Everyone in the room was so frightened that they were silent for a moment. What happened to our family? Was it evil? Our house was blown up for no reason, and we were hunted down. We packed our bags and ran to the United States overnight. Marfa, who was such a sensible child, has now been dragged to the training center for a lecture. At this moment, Django finally couldn't hold it anymore. As the backbone of the family, God knows how much pressure he has been under in the past 2 days. At the moment when the jade bracelet broke today, Django even had the idea of committing suicide. A penny can make a hero fall, and the successive blows have made Django close to the edge of collapse. Chapter 18, First Exploration of the Beach Mine. For many years, Django has never lost his temper so much. Even Natalia was a little shocked by her husband's reaction. 4 pairs of eyes looked at Django, and no one dared to speak first. For a moment, the atmosphere in the house was dead silent. In fact, was Django really angry because of the small living conditions and Marfa's troublemaking? Knowing his son, Django naturally would not think that Marfa would learn bad things after changing the environment. There must be something hidden. What he was really angry about was himself, his incompetence, and his inability to provide his family with a good material life, and his inability to provide his family with security and support. Seeing that his wife and children were looking at him in horror, Django also knew that he had just lost control of his emotions. He subconsciously took out a cigarette from his pocket, and Django walked to the balcony and began to smoke alone. Hiss. The sound of tobacco burning, Django's lonely expression, and circles of light smoke. If it were painted and named It's Difficult to Be a Man, it might become a world-famous painting. Soon, a pair of hands as soft as jade embraced Django's strong waist from behind, followed by an extremely soft body. Feeling the warmth from his back, Django couldn't help but tremble. Even if the cigarette ash fell, he didn't feel it at all, and 2 lines of tears slid down involuntarily. "I'm sorry, dear, for putting you under such great pressure." Natalia's voice echoed in his ears, and for a moment, all the pressure and worries were thrown out of Django's mind. In the living room, Marfa, who witnessed all this, was naturally touched. On the one hand, she was happy to have such a happy family to make up for the regrets of her previous life, and on the other hand, she began to worry about the family's financial situation. Although Midtown High School is a public school, the tuition is not cheap, about $20,000 per school year, and Marfa's family has 3 children, and the tuition alone is $60,000, which is equivalent to $400,000. As for Django, he is now just a clerk in an antique shop in Chinatown, and Natalia is unemployed. To be honest, with such a family's economic situation, Marfa would never believe that Natalia did not use some tricks when she immigrated here. Because it is well known that the United States only welcomes rich and quasi-rich immigrants. It seems that I have to do something. From the news a few days ago, Tony Stark seemed to have been kidnapped when he was showing the new missile Jericho in Afghanistan. This matter has caused a lot of uproar. Although the official has not come forward to confirm it, Marfa knows the truth of this matter, whether from the stock of Stark Industries or with the memory of the previous life. The stock price of Stark Industries has also plummeted rapidly. If I have a sum of money now, I will buy as much stock of Stark Industries as possible, and then sell it all when Tony Stark comes back. Then buy it when the stock of Stark Industries plummets again after Tony Stark announces that Stark Industries will stop manufacturing and selling weapons. As he thought about it, Marfa's pupils seemed to have turned into the symbol of a US dollar. But the question is, where does the capital come from? Soon, an idea gradually took shape in Marfa's mind. Mining. That's right, if you say that in the legendary game, what is the way to make money without too high combat power? Without a doubt, mining is definitely the first choice. Compared with the money earned from killing chickens and deer and selling meat, it is obvious that the income from mining is much higher. Gold mines, silver mines, copper mines, iron mines, and black iron ore for strengthening equipment. Copper and iron are fine, but gold and silver, especially gold, are hard currency. As long as they are brought to the real world and smelted. Thinking of this, Marfa couldn't help but be moved. So now the problem is, I still have more than 30 minutes of point cards left. How much can I dig from mining? And this has not counted the time wasted on the way to the mine. It's a headache. The key is to make money by doing things. As long as you have point cards, you have strength and money. Forget it, let's go to the mine first, dig as much as we can. I think it can at least solve the urgent need at home. Do it as you think of it, and immediately Marfa sank his spirit into the sea of consciousness. It was still the same stone room, the same stone door, and the flame on the lamppost was still swaying, but Marfa was no longer as curious and nervous as at the beginning. After all, this is the third time. After entering the game, Marfa immediately went to the warehouse keeper in Becky City and stored all the things that he could not use temporarily. Then he chopped a few chickens, dug the meat and sold some gold coins to buy a mattock, and then started his mining journey. Mattock, durability. 13/13, attack. 0-8, required level. 1. Random teleportation scroll. Swoosh. Ugh. Swoosh. Ugh. Swoosh. Dot. After a few trips, Marfa felt that he was about to vomit last year's New Year's Eve dinner. I hope Agatha can also be dizzy with teleportation like me. I can't bear this sin alone. At this time, Agatha, who was far away in an ancient castle in the UK, sneezed suddenly. Huh? What's going on? Could it be that the boy's poison also contains influenza virus? Pulling out a silk handkerchief from her waist, Agatha rubbed her nose and immediately continued to stir the potion with the green bubbles in front of her. Marfa, who had no idea about this, finally arrived at the entrance of the Becky mine after using 2 packs of random teleportation scrolls. Amitabha, Amitabha. He silently chanted a few words in his heart, and then walked into the mine with trepidation. After all, he knew exactly what was in the mine. Sure enough, just after entering the Becky mine, a thing that was slightly larger than a human head and looked wide and fat crawled towards him. Look at the row of chubby little feet under it in its bulging body. This is simply ugh. MMP. This damn place. Although he had prepared himself mentally, the sight of such a disgusting thing still made Marfa start to retch for a long time. Cave maggots, as the most common monster in shallow mines, are not very powerful and move very slowly, but they are disgusting. It is just like the white worms attached to the feces in the toilet that have been magnified thousands of times, which makes people's scalps numb. Fight? Run around? Marfa was a little hesitant. After all, he still planned to continue using his ebony sword. If he stabbed this kind of monster, he would probably have a psychological shadow when he wiped and maintained the ebony sword in the future. But on second thought, the Taoist's grey poison powder seemed to need the maggot eggs of the cave maggot as a refining material. In this case, he couldn't avoid this thing. After all, you can't give up half of the poisoning technique because of a momentary nausea. Thinking of this, Marfa immediately picked up the ebony sword and rushed towards the cave maggot. Fuck your mother's disgusting thing, die for me. Chapter 19, Fighting Zombies. 7, -8, -8. 6, 7, -8, -7. 7. I have to say that gold coins are good things. Although most of the items you can buy in the store are street goods, in the early stage, if you have enough gold coins and update your equipment in time, it will indeed make the upgrade path smoother. Look, the cave maggot with 65 horsepower was beaten to pulp by Marfa in a few strokes. However, at this moment, the cave maggot's mouth was tightly closed, its belly bulged slightly, and then a piece of gray-green poison powder sprayed out of its mouth. Marfa, who was unable to dodge, was immediately sprayed by the poison powder. The next second, Marfa felt that his whole body was stiff, as if he was petrified and unable to move. Damn, this is the paralysis effect. If it comes to legendary PK, I'm afraid that all the old legendary players will first think of the famous paralysis ring. Although the warrior wearing this thing wastes a ring position and causes a lot of attribute reduction, countless warriors are happy to do it. The fundamental reason is not the 0-1 attack attribute of the paralysis ring, but the 1/15 chance of paralyzing the opponent for 5 seconds. During these 5 seconds, the opponent will be petrified in place and unable to fight back. For a warrior with a fast attack speed, its effectiveness is no less than the legendary artifact, Dragon Slayer. Rumor has it that after the special ring version was updated, the paralysis ring was hard to find, and it was easy to sell it on the market for tens of thousands of yuan. Marfa once imagined that if he gave his silly brother, Quicksilver, Pietro Maximoff, a paralysis ring, with its super high attack speed, could he freeze the opponent forever. This is very exciting to think about. However, in the subsequent test, Marfa came to the conclusion that people in the real world do not have levels, and all equipment with level restrictions cannot be equipped by people in the real world. However, those equipment that require magic, mental power and attack power can be used by other people who meet the requirements in the real world, such as Natalia's platinum necklace. So, Marfa completely gave up the idea of giving Pietro a paralysis ring. Because the paralysis ring has a level 16 equipment requirement. Back to the point, the paralysis venom of the cave maggot did give Marfa a big shock. This chubby little bug actually has an effect comparable to the legendary artifact. However, after spraying the venom, the cave maggot seemed to have indulged in excessive sexual desire. Its whole body withered and became soft. It was no longer as strong as before, and even its attack speed was reduced a lot. Soon, Marfa successfully killed this unruly guy with a knife. Experience value plus 150. Well, the experience value is still quite rich. Just these few hits are equivalent to slaughtering 10 deer. Thinking of this in his heart, he saw Marfa stab the cave maggot's lower body with a sword, and after a while, he showed a disappointed look. It seems that this cave maggot is a male, and there are no maggot eggs. Marfa complained, but then he thought about it. It would be strange if the cave maggot was not a male and could shoot the poison powder so far. After dealing with this disgusting thing that disturbed his money-making, Marfa immediately put the ebony sword back into his backpack and took out the mattock. As the name suggests, the mattock has a cone-shaped hole like the mouth of a red-crowned crane. It is made of fine iron and flashes a faint metallic luster. The wooden handle of the hole is obviously made of the same material as the rookie wooden sword that Marfa took when he first came to the legendary game. The handle is 1.5 meters long, which is quite bluffing overall. Okay, let's get started. As long as he thought of the green American knives hanging on the walls of the mine, Marfa's heart was filled with passion. Oh, wow. Marfa just raised his hoe high, and found that the ground under his feet was shaking, and then the roar like a beast came into his ears. What's going on? Could it be? As if thinking of something extremely scary, Marfa immediately dodged and retreated, and immediately put the mattock in his hand back into his backpack and replaced it with his usual ebony sword. Sure enough, just when Marfa had just left the place, a zombie wearing a tattered cassock and a string of prayer beads around his neck came out from the ground. Fuck. Do you want to do this? Looking at the pieces of rotten meat on the zombie's body that were half covered by the cassock, Marfa was really scared. The key is that there are actually a few white worms burrowing in the rotten meat. Obviously, these should be the cubs of the cave maggots from before. It's so disgusting. Is this game restored too realistically? If weird things like zombies can be mosaicked, Marfa will definitely agree with both hands. For a mage, even if he is only level 7, it is not difficult to kill zombies with the help of Fireball, and the zombies drop a lot of items, from equipment to skill books, and the experience is also quite rich. But for low-level warriors and Taoist priests, Especially warriors, it is not suitable to fight zombies too early in the early stage. After all, this guy has 155 HP, and his defense and attack capabilities are also quite good. This makes Taoist priests and warriors, whose professional systems have not yet been formed, very tired in the process of killing zombies, and they often need to knock blood bottles to make up for the difference in strength. So now should I kill the zombie in front of me and mine with peace of mind? Or find another safer place? Marfa hesitated a little, especially when he thought about his low point card, and he had wasted a lot of time on the road and killing cave maggots before. If the ore he dug was too little, it would be funny if his first pot of gold was not enough to maintain his operation. After thinking it over again and again, Marfa gritted his teeth, cast a healing spell on himself, picked up the ebony sword and torch, and chopped at the zombies. Dark creatures fear fire and light. This is the rule of nature, even in the legendary game, otherwise these zombies would not have to hide in this dark mine. Sure enough, when seeing Marfa take out the torch, the zombies' bodies instinctively trembled, and their attack speed also slowed down a lot. 4, -5, -7, -5. 6, 6, -5, -4, -5. 8. The zombie's blood is indeed very thick, at least far more than all the monsters Marfa had encountered before. In a short while, Marfa's blood was only about 1/3 left, while the zombie in the cassock had only dropped about a quarter. There was no way. Marfa immediately dodged and retreated, pulling away from the zombies. Fortunately, there is no corpse poison in the legendary game, otherwise Marfa would not be as comfortable as he is now. Healing spell. Healing. After using 2 skills in a row to pull the health bar back to a safe value, Marfa immediately rushed towards the zombie again and started to fight with it. At this pace, Marfa retreated 3 times in total, and finally, with a bald head rolling to the ground, the zombie's health bar was completely emptied by Marfa. Experience plus 160 at the same time, 2 glowing accessories also fell from the zombie. Chapter 20 Mining. Phoenix Pearl, Durability. 11/11, Accuracy, +1, Taoist Magic. 1-3, +1, Required Level. 17, Sturdy Gloves, Durability. 7/10, Defense. 0 and 2, Required Level. 18, Damn it. Looking at the Phoenix Pearl in his hand, Marfa's eyes flashed. What a good thing, it's actually a top-grade product. It adds an extra point of Taoist magic limit, which is a big improvement for the early Taoist priests. What a pity. Looking at the bright equipment level, and then looking at himself now only level 9, for a moment, Marfa couldn't help but want to cry. It's like a hungry man with a pile of gold in his arms, walking into a top hotel, watching countless delicacies in front of him, but the hotel only accepts cash. How uncomfortable it must be. Resisting the temptation of the Phoenix Pearl, Marfa stuffed the 2 pieces of equipment into his backpack. This is the sadness of fighting monsters above your level. You get a lot of experience and the drops are attractive, but the dropped equipment cannot be worn. It is very painful to think about it. I can't waste any more time. I think about how I have to rush on the road, kill cave maggots, and kill a zombie. I have wasted a lot of time in the whole process. Now there are more than 10 minutes left on the card, and I must start working. Immediately, Marfa took back the ebony sword without saying a word, replaced it with a mattock, and chiseled at a mine wall. We miners have power, hey, we miners have power. We are busy digging every day, yo, we are busy digging every day. The loud singing, accompanied by the clanging sound of the mattock chiseling against the mine wall. For a while, the mine cave, which was originally very quiet and gloomy, looked like a Datun coal mine. Soon the first piece of ore was revealed under Marfa's swift chiseling. Copper ore, purity. 13, not bad. Marfa was obviously quite satisfied with the first piece of ore he dug out. After all, when Marfa was playing games, he often had a backpack of copper and iron ores with single-digit purity. In the Legend game, mining usually produces iron ore, copper ore, silver ore, gold ore, and black iron ore. The first 4 types of ores can only be sold to the blacksmith shop. The higher the purity, the higher the selling price. It is a quick way for novice players to earn gold coins. As for black iron ore, if the purity of this thing is too low, it can only be sold to the blacksmith shop, but if the purity is high, it can be used to strengthen weapons. A piece of black iron ore with a purity of more than 20 could be sold at a high price in Legend. Oh, dig, Gold and silver mines are coming out, black iron ore is coming, copper and iron mines are rolling. While shouting slogans, Marfa continued his mining career. After a while, the second piece of ore appeared in his backpack. Iron ore, purity. 17 m. It's okay, Marfa comforted himself. After all, the purpose of this mining is not to earn gold coins, but to bring the ore to the real world to sell for money. Copper iron ore may be worth some money in the legendary game, but in the real world, this copper iron ore weighing more than 4 pounds is really useless. He did not get discouraged and continued to dig. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, mining is really hard. Before he finished speaking, a black ore appeared in Marfa's sight. Damn, I won the prize. Seeing this newly unearthed black ore, Marfa suddenly became interested and checked it immediately. Black iron ore, purity. 3, Marfa, oh, happy for nothing. Reluctantly, he stuffed the ore into his backpack again, but this time Marfa did not act immediately. Instead, he took out a small dose of gold wound medicine and poured it on his hand. Whether it is superstition or metaphysics, Marfa in his previous life had heard a saying that drinking red medicine while mining can make your hands red. He didn't care about the dozens of gold coins. Marfa was just trying to get a good start. Ding ding dang dang. There was another rapid chiseling. The next second, a golden light instantly entered Marfa's eyes. It was red. It was really red. With a nervous mood, Marfa grabbed the ore and checked it. Gold ore, purity. 18. Looking at the bright 18, Marfa felt his blood boiling and his heartbeat was much faster. This piece of gold ore is about 4 pounds. The purity of ore in the legendary game seems to be 30, which means that at least half of it is pure gold. The current gold price in the United States is about $33 per gram, which means that if this piece of ore is sold, it can probably sell for more than $30,000. It only took a few minutes, and the speed of making money is comparable to robbery. After carefully collecting the gold ore, Marfa immediately began his robbery career. Gold, purity 16, copper, purity 14, gold, purity 16, silver, purity 10, gold, purity 13, iron, purity 18, gold, purity 8, copper, purity 4. In the next 10 minutes, Marfa was very successful, and the ores he dug out were simply exciting. The card was also quietly lost in his excitement. Finally, Marfa's figure disappeared in the Bicky mine with a flash of light. Back to reality from the game, it was still the small apartment of more than 80 square meters. Django and Natalia were still spreading dog food on the balcony, but Marfa had earned a lot of money in just half an hour. Next, what needs to be considered is the processing and reselling of the gold mines in his backpack. After all, it is impossible to sell the ore directly to a jewelry store. As for why it is only the gold mine, and not the silver mine, it is naturally because of the special nature of gold. Of course, gold is a hard currency, and its higher value is definitely the main reason. More importantly, it is the problem of refining. Those who have studied junior high school chemistry know that gold, is an extremely stable metal. There is a saying that real gold is not afraid of fire, which refers to its chemical properties. In nature, whether it is iron, aluminum, copper, these metals are difficult to exist in minerals in the form of single substances. Perhaps it is because of pressure or oxidation. In short, they often appear in the form of compounds. But gold is not the same. In history, many people have been lucky enough to pick up doghead gold, which is the so-called large piece of natural gold. The so-called gold panning in those days was also panning for gold sand. You only need to collect the gold sand, smelt it, remove impurities, and then it can enter the market for circulation. If you want to deal with silver ore, Marfa has to prepare a lot of chemicals to reduce the silver-containing compounds. Not to mention that these chemicals are not easy to buy. The money and energy spent greatly reduce Marfa's interest in extracting silver. Late at night, Django, Wanda and Pietro have all fallen asleep, leaving only Natalia still sorting out clothes. Mom, I have some big treasures, do you want to see them? Chapter 21 The Big Golden Baby. Mom, I have some big treasures, do you want to see them? Marfa never stops talking until she is shocked. As soon as she said this, Natalia's hands trembled and she almost tore Wanda's skirt, which she was tidying up. Immediately, she looked at her youngest son with an extremely strange look. She thought to herself, what's wrong with Marfa? He has only been in school for 1 day. Could it be that he has been led astray? He still wants his mother to see his big treasures? How can this be tolerated? Standing up, Natalia was about to have a good talk with her son and pull him back from the road of no return. But Marfa put 5 golden stones in front of her like a magic trick. Are you surprised? Are you surprised? My big treasures are dazzling. Marfa looked proud and put on a look of wanting to praise me. Is this your big baby? It's really dazzling. Natalia looked suspicious, and her expression was even more strange. It seemed that her son was not led astray. It seemed that she was overthinking. Relieved in her heart, Natalia immediately began to look at the 5 big stones in front of her that were very similar in shape and size. The lighting in the apartment was pretty good, and there was no bloody drama of sudden power outage. Under the illumination of the fluorescent lights, the 5 big stones continued to reflect the glittering golden light, which was very luxurious. These are some ores I accidentally obtained. I have taken samples and identified them. They are gold. If they are refined, they should be able to meet the emergency needs of the family. Marfa pretended to be calm at this time and said solemnly, accidentally obtained. Natalia frowned, obviously not believing Marfa's nonsense. A few years ago, when he was still in Sokovia, Pietro brought home a lot of small things, which were also accidentally obtained like Marfa. As a result, within a few days, some parents came to the door and said that Pietro bullied their children and snatched their toys. Natalia believed that Marfa would not bully classmates, but if she went to the alchemy factory to beg for money in order to alleviate the family's economic crisis, that was not necessarily the case. As if she thought of something, Natalia took off the platinum necklace that Marfa had given her before. Marfa, your parents don't ask you 3 to be rich and outstanding in the future, nor do they expect you to repay us in the future. But there is one thing I hope you remember, whether it is me or Django, we hope that you 3 can grow up safely and healthily. If these things come from unclean sources and make our family wander around again and live a life of escape, I would rather not have them. Do you understand? Natalia spoke earnestly, fearing that Marfa would go astray in the future because of her transcendent power. Having lived 2 lives, Marfa would not understand Natalia's intentions, and nodded seriously. I understand. We are a family. I will never allow anyone to hurt you, including Agatha. Don't worry. Just like your chaos magic, this is also my ability. I can occasionally manifest some magical props. For example, the herb I used when I helped you heal your wounds. Hearing this, out of trust in Marfa, who has always been sensible, Natalia finally put on the platinum necklace again. These ores contain gold. I hope Mom can use your chaos magic to crush the impurities in the ores and separate them. Of course, I gave them to you. You can also sell them to antique shops or something like that. In short, I hope to make Dad feel a little more relaxed. Marfa did not mention buying Stark Industries shares. Although this would definitely make a lot of money, his capital was too small. Marfa had calculated before that at most he could only extract 5,000 grams of gold, which was about 150,000 US dollars. It might be okay to solve an urgent problem, but if it is used for investment, even a short-term investment of 1 or 2 months, it is far from enough. So, now that the point card is gone, how can I make money quickly? For a moment, Marfa also fell into deep thought. Marfa did not think about instigating Natalia to rescue Tony Stark and then ask him for a hard work fee, but as long as you think about it carefully, you can realize that this is actually very unrealistic. First of all, Marfa is not sure which cave Tony Stark is imprisoned in, and secondly, whether it is S.H.I.E.L.D. or the US military, I am afraid that they are all focusing on Afghanistan at this time. If he is now exposed to the world as a superpower, the consequence will be the influx of many forces. Forget it, take it one step at a time. I really hope that I can be supported by Tony or T'Challa at the beginning like those Marvel fan fictions. Thinking of this, Marfa returned to his bedroom and looked forward to the arrival of a new day. At the same time, in another bedroom in Queens, Tobey Maguire was a little too excited. Today is an extremely exciting day for him. The first thing he has to bear is to make a friend, Marfa Maximoff. You know, before transferring to Central City High School, Tobey had almost no friends. His cowardly and reserved character made him the target of bullying in all schools. He was even the target of bullying on his first day at school. But today, his new friend showed him what it meant to be a newcomer. If you dare to stretch your legs, he will kick you. Although Tobey knew that Marfa did not mean it, he thought that few people would mess with Marfa in the future. As Marfa's friend, he could naturally spend a wonderful high school life under her protection. The most important thing is that Toby also found out today that his next-door neighbor, Mary Jane, is also in Class 11 of Central City High School. This is very nice. You know, Toby has been secretly in love with his former elementary school classmate for many years. Is this the so-called good luck? Looking through the window, looking at the shadow of Mary Jane on the window opposite, Toby felt his heart surge, and his right hand subconsciously moved into the quilt. In Tobey Maguire's opinion, it was the best day, but for Flash Thompson, today was simply a nightmare. Look at what he has been through. First, his class flower was robbed by a boy who had just transferred to the school, and then his leg was kicked off by him, and then even that seemingly timid soft egg came to humiliate him. It can be imagined that after his leg injury recovers and returns to school, he will definitely become the laughingstock of the whole school, and then live his entire high school career in humiliation. This is simply terrible. As long as he thought of this, Flash's heart was filled with anger. No, he had to do something to save his position in school. After thinking for a moment, Flash immediately picked up the phone and dialed Jack's number. Jack David is a small leader under the current American underworld Kingpin, and is mainly responsible for Chinatown, southern Queens, and northern Brooklyn. As for Flash Thompson, his family's hotel chain has branches in Queens and Brooklyn, so it is inevitable that he has a lot of intersections with Jack David. Long before meeting Marfa, Flash would pay Jack David to help take care of those classmates who didn't know what to do. After a while, the two of them became somewhat familiar with each other. After a long time, Flash hung up the phone and breathed a sigh of relief. Although he spent a lot of money this time, as long as he thought of Marfa's miserable end, Flash's heart was excited. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, Flash's Revenge. The morning sun shone into the window, but the familiar sound of birds was no longer in front of the window. As one of the cities with the highest urbanization process in the world, it is difficult to find traces of birds in the streets and alleys of New York, except Times Square. Marfa, Wanda, Pietro, it's time to get up. The house is not big, but the advantage is obvious. Natalia no longer needs to knock on the door one by one like before. As long as she shouts in the kitchen, the whole house can hear it clearly. Pietro got up lazily from the bed and subconsciously glanced at the upper bunk. Empty? Where's Marfa? At this time, Marfa, who had just finished morning exercise, happened to walk into the room. His sunny and handsome face was completely different from his usual nerdy image, which really scared Wanda. Marfa, you. Wanda rubbed her messy hair. She was completely unaccustomed to the change of her younger brother. Me? What's wrong? Marfa looked at herself and didn't seem to find anything wrong. Since her body was strengthened, Marfa has enjoyed the changes in her body. There is no reason to waste such a good body. Therefore, Marfa decided to get up early every day to run in the morning, which would not only improve her spirit, but also allow her to enjoy the fresh exhaust gas in the morning in New York. Maybe it was because of the gold Marfa gave her yesterday. The level of food in the morning had obviously improved a lot. Django, who didn't know why, frowned a little, but he was relieved when he thought that the three children were still growing. Money is not saved, it seems that I have to work harder today. After secretly setting a small goal for himself, Django went out early after breakfast. At first glance, this special family seems to be no different from an ordinary family. But before Marfa and the other two finished breakfast, Natalia's cell phone rang. What? Okay, I'll be there right away. Natalia's tone was 7 parts worry and 3 parts anger. Obviously something bad had happened. Mom, what's wrong? Marfa asked. No, nothing. You guys go to school later, I have something to do so I'm leaving now. As soon as she finished speaking, Natalia hurried out of the house. This scene made Marfa frown. It was obvious that Natalia was hiding something from the three of them, but she didn't think much about it. After all, what could possibly happen to the Scarlet Witch? When they arrived at school by school bus, Toby had been waiting at the school gate for a long time. After what happened yesterday, Toby didn't dare to go in alone. After all, Flash's reputation was well known in Central City High School. If he went in like this, he might be tricked by Flash's lackeys at any time. Toby was honest, but not stupid. He knew very well that only by holding Marfa's thigh tightly at all times could he spend every day safely. "Hey, Marfa, good morning." Seeing Marfa coming, Toby immediately went up to her and greeted her. "Good morning, Toby. Let me introduce you to my brother, Pietro, my sister, Wanda, and my neighbor, Grant Guston." Toby had never thought that Marfa actually had a pair of twin brothers and sisters, which made him, the only child who lived with his uncle, particularly envious. Especially Wanda, with the face of an angel and the figure of the sea. Although she was still growing, she was already full of ups and downs. If he hadn't been thinking about Mary Jane for a long time, Toby felt that he would probably fall into a state of infatuation. Just as the 5 people were about to enter the school gate, a Mercedes-Benz stopped at the school gate, and then, Flush appeared in front of everyone. The only difference from before was that Flush was sitting in a wheelchair at this time. Looking at his high-spirited appearance, he looked a bit like Charles. "Hey, good morning, classmate Thompson." Toby greeted Flush in a familiar way, but in return he got a vicious sneer from the other party. Then, Flash's eyes fell on Marfa. His arrogant and pretentious aura was like a flash bomb, which made Marfa almost unable to open her eyes. "Dear Maximov, I hope you can enjoy this wonderful day." The sarcastic words came out of Flash's mouth, which seemed to have a hidden meaning, and everyone got goosebumps. Flash Thompson was a rich kid with a bad personality and a strong self-esteem. The reason why he could come to school despite his foot injury was not because he loved learning. This made Toby nervous all day. Finally, the afternoon physical education class came. Unlike the exam-oriented education in China, European and American education pays more attention to the comprehensive development of students than the knowledge mastery of students. Of course, physical education is a very important course. The physical education teacher is sick? That's impossible. Unless he is paralyzed, physical education classes will definitely be held normally. On the green field. Students, today is our first class basketball game this semester. As the head of the school sports team, I will select the best players for the school basketball team based on your performance. This is related to your year-end assessment scores and scholarships. I hope you can make a good impression on me. The physical education teacher is a black man. Because of racial discrimination, this is extremely rare in public schools throughout the United States, but this also indirectly proves his excellent ability. Okay, now we will divide into groups and get ready to go on the court. As the black teacher finished speaking, the 12 male students of Class 11 of senior high school walked to the center of the court in full gear. The team that Marfa and Toby were in wore red uniforms, while the other team wore blue uniforms. The number of people was 6 to 6, which seemed fair at first glance. However, Flush, who was off the court, smiled knowingly. On the court, all the members of the red team, except Marfa, wore glasses and were thin. On the blue team, everyone was tall and muscular. Needless to say, this black pay teacher was obviously bribed by Flash. And all the members of the blue team were Flash's lackeys. It looked like a basketball game, but in fact they only had one goal today, to beat Marfa Maximov and Toby Maguire to death. What Flash wanted to do was to embarrass Marfa and Toby in front of others, and then wait until school was over to give them a double happiness. Come on Marfa. Come on Marfa. Off the court, the girls in Class 11 of Senior 1 looked at Marfa's handsome silver hair and started shouting loudly. The aura was so strong that the surrounding trees began to rustle. Looking at the girl's eager eyes, the gloom in Flash's eyes became more and more intense, and his fists were clenched tightly subconsciously. In the distance, the crackling sound of the joints could be heard. Chew. The black teacher blew the whistle. However, the blue team's extra A jumped up first, and with one bounce, he easily caught a ball. His teammates spread out at the first moment, occupying a favorable position, waiting for extra A to pass the ball. Extra B, catch it. After twisting and turning and easily dodging 2 red team extras, extra A took advantage of the gap and threw the ball directly at Marfa's face behind extra B. Obviously, this was premeditated. Playing basketball is fake, hitting people is real. Extra A's aim is quite good. The moment the basketball slipped out of his hand, it flew straight to Marfa's face at lightning speed. Ah! I passed it wrong. Extra A is a superb actor, and he immediately shouted with regret. Chapter 23 The difficulty of teaching physical education. It's okay, I'm here. Extra B immediately took over the role, seemingly moving to grab the ball, but in fact he used his body to hold Marfa tightly, not giving him a chance to dodge. Oh no. Toby, who was not far away, saw this and immediately thought it was bad. He had encountered this kind of thing many times in the previous schools. If this ball hit his face, he would probably have a nosebleed at the lightest, and his nose bridge might even be broken. Looking at Flush sitting in a wheelchair with a smug look on his face, Toby knew what was going on. Humph, school violence, right? Marfa said disdainfully in his heart. Mental power warfare. Invisible mental power gushed out of Marfa's body in an instant. With Marfa's mental strength, although it was far from being able to block the bullet, it was easy to change the direction of the basketball's flight and add a little more force. Marfa narrowed his eyes slightly, and his mental power immediately wrapped up the flying basketball. The next second, bang! Blood splattered. The basketball flew past Marfa's ear, and the strong wind caused Marfa's hair to dance, and then it hit the nose of Extra B right in the middle of the bullseye. Extra B fell down, leaving only a fountain of blood in the air. Bite. The whistle sounded again, and the black physical education teacher called for a timeout. A question mark floated across his face. What's going on? Didn't we agree to only give the two newcomers a warning? Why did we mess with our own people? The key is that this is too cruel. Although he was bribed by Flush, the black teacher still had the most basic teacher ethics. Seeing Extra B was injured, he immediately called a halt. I'm sorry, students, because Extra B was accidentally injured, the game is temporarily suspended. The black teacher's voice resounded throughout the court, and the two teams immediately stopped their actions. No, teacher, he is only slightly injured, the game continues. Flush would never allow his arrangement to fail like this, and glanced at Extra B, who fell to the ground with resentment. Extra B, do you think I'm right? Extra B also came back to his senses from the dizziness just now, and subconsciously looked in the direction of Flash. Feeling the other party's extremely cold eyes, Extra B immediately became timid. Teacher, Flash is right, I'm only slightly injured, I can go to the medical department to deal with it later, don't affect everyone's game. Extra B staggered to his feet and walked off the court. His nose was still gushing wildly along the way, leaving a long line of blood. That? The black teacher wanted to say something, but thinking of Flash's strong family background and complicated interpersonal relationships, he finally swallowed his words. Extra C, you go on the court to replace Extra B, and the game continues. Because the ball just hit Extra B first and then went out of bounds, this time the ball came to Toby of the red team. Toby, who got the ball, immediately ran to the opponent's rebound with the ball, wanting to grab the first point in a fast break. But soon, Toby was double-teamed by Extras A and C. Extras D of the blue team also rushed over and blocked the black teacher's sight with his sturdy body. Bang! Extra A's elbow strike was powerful and hit Toby's chest mercilessly. Toby couldn't stand such an attack, and immediately fell to the ground, curled up like a shrimp, and his legs kept twitching. Toby. Marfa, who witnessed all this, was furious. What a joke, hitting someone in front of you, is this going to go to heaven? Marfa wanted to cast a healing spell on Toby, but hesitated for a moment and didn't cast it. After all, his healing spell is different from the mental power combat method, which has light and shadow effects. If he really did that, I'm afraid SHIELD would invite him to have tea. Fortunately, at this time, the black teacher blew the whistle again. What's going on? Two people got injured in less than a minute. Teacher, Toby is pretending. I can see clearly from this angle that he was definitely not touched. Flash saw the black teacher blowing the whistle and immediately shouted. It was obvious that Toby's injury could not wash away his resentment at all. Toby must not be allowed to leave the court. Flash thought to himself. You all saw it just now. Did Toby lie down by himself? Flash turned around suddenly and looked at the cheerleading girls behind him, his eyes full of threats. No. That's right, Toby. Toby laid down by himself. A cowardly girl spoke first, and immediately a group of girls echoed. There was no way. Flash was used to being domineering. Not to mention the weak girls in the class, even the strong boys had suffered under his hands. Marfa was furious when she heard it, but she was relieved after thinking for a moment. Obviously, whoever dares to be the first to stand out at this time will face the revenge from Flash. Fortunately, Marfa was not unprepared. He immediately walked off the court, took out the water bottle he brought with him, and gave a sip to Toby, who was lying on the ground. There was a small bottle of golden wound medicine, small, in it, which was originally used to conceal the truth and just in case, but it was used so soon. Sure enough, after a few sips, Toby's injuries were healed immediately, and even the previous severe pain from his chest disappeared completely. Toby opened his eyes wide and looked at Marfa in shock. What was that just now? Why am I am all healed. Toby couldn't find the right words to describe this magical feeling for a while, and could only use "am I okay?" to express his disbelief. SHH. Secret. Go on the court, and watch how I will avenge you next. Toby returned to the court and the game started again. This time the ball was in the hands of D, who was dribbling the ball while thinking about how to deal with Marfa, but found that Marfa had already appeared beside him. Good opportunity. D stopped immediately, pretending to be unsteady, and hit Marfa with his shoulder. At this moment, D could almost imagine Marfa being knocked to the ground by him. He even thought about how to take advantage of the black teacher's inattention and hide him a few times in the name of caring about Marfa and checking his condition. But when he really hit Marfa, he realized how powerless he was. This guy is not a person at all, it's clearly a wall, and a metal wall. Marfa was waiting for this moment. He turned around and came to the opposite side of B, snatched the basketball, and pushed his butt slightly. D fell to the ground like a dog eating shit, and then slid a meter away. Bite. The whistle sounded again. The black teacher was already furious. These brats were clearly fighting. He raised the red card high, signaling Marfa to leave the field. Teacher, it was Extra D who fell down just now. Maximov didn't hide him. Flash defended again. What a joke. If Marfa was left like this, how could Flash continue to bully him? Asshole, do you think I'm blind? Teacher, think about it first, okay? Flash's voice clearly carried a hint of impatience, as if he would kill the black teacher if he dared to say another word. Gudong, okay, Marfa didn't foul. I just saw it wrong. The game continues. It's so hard to be a physical education teacher. How about taking a sick leave tomorrow? The black teacher thought to himself. Chapter 24 Andrew Garfield. By this time, Flash's intention was very clear. In this case, Marfa was naturally fearless. Making trouble. Who wouldn't do that? Anyway, he wouldn't be sent off. In the next game, Marfa simply let go. Anyone who dared to approach him from the blue team would be beaten to death. Whether it was strength or defense, Marfa was not comparable to these big students. When they fought, they could be said to be one punch to a kid. Less than 10 minutes into the game, everyone in the blue team was injured and hid when they saw Marfa. And Toby was also shocked. Seeing Marfa so fierce, he simply gave up his position and followed Marfa throughout the game. In this way, as long as the basketball was in hand, Marfa almost walked to the opposite basket quietly, and then gently threw the basketball into the basket like a quiet handsome man. The whole game became Marfa's personal show. Come on. Come on. You are really good, Marfa. Marfa is so handsome. The cheerleaders outside the court shouted loudly. Assholes, assholes. They are all a bunch of rubbish. Watching the situation that was almost certain to win turn into what it is now, Flash felt dizzy and almost fainted. Fortunately, he remembered that he had a backup plan, and Flash barely recovered his breath. But even so, he still didn't want to continue watching Marfa's solo show on the court, which would only increase his blood pressure. The fourth quarter and 48 minutes of the game ended perfectly with a score of 200-0. From the third quarter, the blue team no longer dared to approach Marfa within a radius of 3 meters, and some blue team members even took the initiative to pass the ball to Marfa. That's right, it was a pass, not a smash. There was no way, no matter who got the ball from the blue team, Marfa would walk slowly towards them with the pace of death. How could this work? For a while, basketball became a hot potato, and no one dared to take the ball except Marfa. 200-0 can be said to be a legendary score, and this was because Marfa felt bored and wasted a lot of time. The game was over. Marfa Maximov's name spread throughout Midtown High School. He played a game of basketball by himself, and the opposing players saw him walking around and even took the initiative to pass the ball to him. One by one, each of these things refresh people's free views. So, basketball can be played like this? After school in the afternoon. Everyone dispersed, each went back to their own homes, each looking for their own mothers. Wanda, Pietro and Marfa formed a team and walked on the way home. Originally, the school had a school bus to pick them up, but the three of them were still children and had just changed to a new environment. They were particularly curious about everything around them. In addition, the school was not far from home, and the public security in New York during the day was not satisfactory, so the three decided to walk home. Marfa, I heard that you played a basketball game by yourself today. Pietro was an uneasy person. He had been holding it in all the way. Seeing that Marfa was unwilling to take the initiative to speak, he naturally had to ask to see if his nerd brother needed the bus to protect him. After all, Pietro had just transferred here, but he defeated the whole class with his fists. And it was the kind of real romantic punches, unlike Marfa who only knew how to cheat. No. It's just that everyone gave in to me. Seeing that I was from another place, they took special care of me. When playing basketball, my teammates passed the ball to me, and the opponents also passed the ball to me. After shooting for more than 40 minutes, my arms were sore. Pietro, I didn't study much, you old Versailles, don't lie to me. But looking at my brother, he really didn't look injured, so I didn't take it to heart. Wanda, how have you been these 2 days? If anyone bullied you, don't worry and tell me, I'll protect you. Pietro patted his chest and promised, looking like a big brother. No, I have a good relationship with Gwen Stacy in our class. Her father is the police chief. You'd better take care of yourself, don't go back and ask me to save you. Wanda said indifferently, her attention had long been attracted by the snacks along the way. You have to know that when you go back to North Brooklyn from Midtown High School, you have to pass by Chinatown. There are steamed buns, tofu pudding, fried dough sticks, glutinous rice balls. The strong aroma penetrated her nose, and Wanda's soul had already flown to the shops along the way. Gwen Stacy sounds good. Marfa murmured, feeling that the name was extremely familiar. Wait, the daughter of a policeman, Midtown High School. Papa. Marfa slapped her forehead repeatedly, feeling that her brain was not enough. Well, Wanda, is there another guy named Peter Parker in your class? Marfa asked uncertainly. That's not the case. What about Andrew Garfield? Maybe, the name sounds familiar. Wanda said after a little thought. Good guy, the first-generation Spider-Man Tobey Maguire and the second-generation Spider-Man Andrew Garfield are here, and they are classmates in the same school. Isn't this a bit too much? Should I pull Andrew to my side? With the 2 generations of Spider-Man, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch and myself, I will have more room to maneuver. Thinking of this, Marfa couldn't help but be tempted. But on second thought, Andrew's version of Spider-Man and the MCU version of Spider-Man seem to be closer in ability. If Tobey's version of Spider-Man is a pure mutant power, then Andrew and Holland, who can't spin silk by themselves, are mutants plus technology. From the perspective of the integrity of power alone, Andrew and Holland are obviously far inferior to Tobey. However, the latter two, probably to follow the setting of the comics, have made slight improvements in strength. After repeatedly calculating the gains and losses, Marfa finally gave up the idea of winning over Andrew. Otherwise, if there are 2 people with similar powers on his side, it will inevitably make other forces feel that they can mass-produce Spider-Man, which will attract covetousness and too much attention, which is not a good thing. Marfa? Marfa? What are you thinking about? Why are you just standing there in a daze? Come here, my brother is treating you to steamed buns today. Do you want A or B? Ahem, I mean do you want meat or vegetable stuffing? Pietro's sudden speeding immediately pulled Marfa out of his thoughts. I think we should forget about steamed buns and steamed buns. Little guys, do you want to try a fist? At this moment, 6 young men dressed in punk clothes emerged from the alley. Although they didn't have a hair color of Shamit, the tattoos on their bodies and their arrogant attitudes told the 3 people that trouble was coming. At the corner of the street, Flash, who was sitting in a car, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief at this time, and took a sip of the green can of coffee beside him. FUK. I've been looking for you for so long, and finally I caught you, Marfa Maximoff. Do you really think that you won't have to pay a price for messing with me, Flash Thompson? Today, if I don't drive your whole family out of New York, I, Thompson, will sit in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. Flash murmured confidently. You have to know that these 6 are good fighters that he borrowed from Jack David at a high price. It's no problem for the Kingpin gang to fight 3 with 1, and it's not a big deal to beat a few students. What's more, the current situation is 6 versus 2.5. Well, that's right, that pretty good-looking woman can only be counted as half. P.S. Scarlet Witch smiled. Flash thought so in his heart, and his eyes were shining, as if he had seen the scene of the 6 people stepping on Marfa and Pietro, stripping Wanda and humiliating her. Chapter 25 Being a Brother. Seeing his younger siblings being threatened, Quicksilver, as the eldest, naturally stood up first. Of course, he has always done this. In Sokovia, those boys who intended to make a move on Wanda were beaten by Pietro, and those bad boys who snatched Marfa's homework before Marfa crossed over were beaten by Pietro. Of course, those who dared to be arrogant in front of Pietro and challenged him as the school bully were beaten by him. There is no doubt that from birth to now, Pietro may not have performed well in other aspects, but in terms of protecting his younger siblings, he is definitely a competent brother. As early as the beginning of the crossing, Marfa had thought that Pietro, who was not bad in skills and later awakened his speed ability and became Quicksilver, could not be easily killed by a few bullets. Didn't you see that the Flash next door could even penetrate the wall directly? But as Marfa thought deeply, he gradually understood the problem of Pietro. As we all know, the reason why the Flash is so powerful is that his speed is one of the reasons, but the real reason is the speed force, which is defined by DC as one of the supreme powers. As long as the speed force exists, the Flash can use his speed regardless of the rules of physics. For example, if he runs at the speed of light, his clothes will not catch fire. For example, after circling the Earth once, he will give the opponent a circle. His punching power only enjoys the increase brought by acceleration, without considering the damage caused to his body by the feedback of the force, or the huge burden on the body after the speed is too fast. Everything is because of the existence of the speed force, which firmly holds down the coffins of a number of scientific greats such as Newton and Einstein. However, the Quicksilver of the MCU is not the case. Let's not consider the mutant Quicksilver in the X-Men who can compete with the explosion. Although the Quicksilver in the MCU has abilities similar to the Flash, it is essentially not protected by the speed force. This leads to Pietro Maximoff having to follow the laws of physics when using his speed ability. That is to say, if he uses accelerated running to increase the strength of his punches like the Flash, then when he successfully hits the enemy, the feedback of the force will also destroy Pietro's own body at the same time. Once the speed reaches a certain level, the friction between Pietro's body surface and the air will also vaporize him instantly. Air friction, force feedback. This series of problems limit Pietro's strength. Therefore, in a sense, Pietro, the Quicksilver, will never reach the height of the Flash. So if you want to improve Quicksilver's strength, it is ultimately necessary to improve the strength of his body so that his bones, muscles, and skin can withstand the feedback brought by faster speed. And Marfa has come up with 3 channels for this. First, take the secondary mutation route. In other words, if Pietro has a physique as strong as the Hulk, then there is no doubt that his speed will definitely bring him more powerful combat power. Second, take the technological route. Whether it is Black Panther's vibranium suit or Iron Man's nanosuit, they can play a good auxiliary role. Finally, take the magic route. For example, Marfa's holy armor, or let Wanda imitate the magic shield to give Pietro a protective layer. Of course, all these ideas can only be realized after Pietro becomes Quicksilver. After all, the plot of the Maximoff family has been disturbed by Marfa, and whether the brothers and sisters can awaken their abilities is another matter. Without too many words, while Marfa was thinking, Pietro had already entangled with the 6 thugs. Pietro picked up the lid of the metal trash can beside him and smashed it hard on one of them. The skillful action made the others dumbfounded. Bang, bang, bang. Pants, pants, pants. The sound of fighting was endless. For Pietro now, punching the flesh is the true romance of a man. The thugs of the Jinbin gang obviously didn't expect that this inconspicuous student would be so fierce. When fighting, he was no less fierce than the gangsters who had been on the edge of a knife for a long time. In addition, Pietro took action first and knocked over one person with the lid of a trash can, so the remaining 5 people felt that they had no idea where to start. Fortunately, these 5 people were knowledgeable and had rich experience in fighting. They quickly reacted and launched a siege attack on Pietro. Rubber rollers, daggers, butterfly knives, alloy brass knuckles. They all took out one after another, as if they were going to kill Pietro. In this way, although Pietro was fierce in combat, he was still no match for 4 hands. He was soon beaten by the 5 people and had no strength to fight back. He was even in danger several times and barely avoided the danger of being ripped open by the dagger and butterfly knife. The broad daylight attack on the street quickly attracted the attention of the people around. If it happened in China, I'm afraid it would soon attract a large group of spectators, and even a few heroes would come out to stop the fight. However, this is the United States, this is New York. People have seen this kind of bloody scene many times, and they are not interested in watching it. They just take a look and then go about their own business. Chaos, indifference, and disregard for life are the daily routines in the dark alleys of New York, the world's top metropolis. Die, kid. Don't worry, we will soon send your brother, sister, and your mother to hell to accompany you and your father. The scarred man in the lead roared loudly. The dagger in his hand went straight to Pietro's back. However, this sentence made Marfa, who was watching from the side, feel bad, and then thought of Natalia's anxious and angry expression after answering the phone in the morning, and her eagerness to go out in a hurry. It's confirmed that something happened to my dad. Originally, Marfa was going to see what Pietro could do, and then consider his future development path based on his fighting style. With healing skills and a lot of potions to back him up, Marfa was not worried about Pietro's life safety. However, the current situation did not allow Marfa to waste time. Summoning the ebony sword, Marfa immediately swung it towards the scarred man holding the dagger. Whoosh, whoosh. The ebony sword kept spinning in the air, mixed with bursts of air-breaking sounds, and flew straight towards the scarred man's thigh. Pants. With a crisp bone-breaking sound, the man's thigh bone was immediately broken into two sections by the ebony sword thrown by Marfa. The dagger in his hand also fell to the ground. Then the ebony sword flew back to Marfa's hand like a boomerang under Marfa's telekinesis control. You bunch of bastards, you even beat a dog. No, you even beat a person and look at his brother. That's not right either. Anyway, you deserve to die. As soon as he finished speaking, Marfa picked up the ebony sword and rushed towards the 5 thugs from the Kingpin gang. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.